start now, I think, yeah.
Right. Hello, everyone. This is Seema Naqvi on behalf of ASSOCHAM. A very warm welcome to our honorable guests, distinguished speakers, and participants for this highly anticipated webinar on the future of diagnostics in India, technological advancements, and emerging trends. Despite the challenges of multiple time zones, we are united by a common goal to explore the future of diagnostics and its potential to transform healthcare in India and beyond. Before we commence this captivating journey, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to our partners who have made this event possible. DRG Path Labs, Roche Diagnostics, Becton and Dickinson, along with our knowledge partner, Avalon Consulting, and media partner, Medical Buyer. Your unwavering support and commitment to advancing healthcare are truly commendable. Today, we have the privilege of having Dr. Ravi Gaur, a distinguished expert in the field of diagnostics, leading this webinar. Let's get ready for an enlightening and inspiring session ahead. With this, I invite Dr. Gaur to kindly begin today's journey with his welcome remarks.
Well, thank you,
Dr.
Siva, and good afternoon, everybody. It's my pleasure here to be at this webinar, The Future of Diagnostics in India, and that's organized by ASSOCHAM. And welcome to all of you. Welcome to my distinguished the speakers, and of course the audience out there. And we look forward to interesting sessions, and of course hear the wisdom and knowledge of all the people who are there at that forum. With me, I have, we have Dr. Renu Swaroop. Dr. Renu Swaroop is an Indian genetist and a former Secretary Government of India, formerly heading the Department of Biotechnology. And she has actively contributed in the formulation of India's biotechnology vision and strategy. And I'm sure many of you must be knowing she is credited with establishment of the India's largest microbial resource center, microbial culture collection. And welcome to Renu. I think we look forward to hear from you as we move forward. Along with me, we have Dr. Jitendra Sharma. Welcome, sir. I think it's a pleasure to hear you always, and I think I have a privilege and many a time to be discussions with you, meet in person. Your enthusiasm for diagnostics and healthcare is really applaudable. Dr. Jitendra Sharma comes with the exhaustive experience of supporting the entire range of healthcare delivery systems, from primary healthcare and up to what is there in the World Health Organization. He's actually worked right from the ground up to the best in the world. He's the founder director of India's first and only WHO collaborating center for medical devices, and also founder, managing director, and CEO of Andhra MedTech Zone Visakhapatnam. Welcome, sir, and I look forward to hear from you as we move forward. Thank you so much for being here. Before we start, I'd like to say a couple of the things what I really think about diagnostic, what session should be, or what we will be talking about. In the recent years, we have witnessed an unprecedented evolution of diagnostic technologies. It was all accelerated by the COVID. It was already in the offing the last 10 years, but during COVID, I think the things really went up pretty fast. The convergence of breakthroughs in fields like artificial intelligence, machine learning, genomics, digital health has paved the way for a new era of diagnostics, which has redefined the possibilities of early detection, personalized medicine, and improved patient outcomes. Today, we are at the cusp of a transformative era. There's no doubt about it. The advent of point-of-care testing, portable diagnostic devices, wearable sensors even has brought diagnostic closer to the patient, enabling faster and more accurate diagnosis. The use of AI, machine learning has empowered the healthcare professionals to analyze the vast amount of data, what they're getting, and get the right kind of a value insights, and which can help them into a good decision-making ability, and of course, making accurate diagnosis for diagnostic people and coming out with the right kind of personalized therapies. However, it's very important to acknowledge the future of diagnostic extends far beyond the boundaries of technology. The integration of diagnostics into the broader healthcare system requires a holistic approach. And I think there is a lot more needed to integrate, collaborate, and put all the things, whatever we have learned together, and make really whatever we have innovated on ground translate and work out. And of course, leverage the emerging trends to drive the positive change. But tomorrow's diagnostic, I'm very sure, will be characterized by enhanced accessibility and affordability. The advancement of digital health platform, telemedicine will help the remote diagnosis. Digital pathology is already started. Digital radiology, teleradiology is already there and working very well for the last 1 decade, more than that. So this will help probably the democratization of diagnostics, will empower individuals to take charge of their own health to health monitoring devices and personalized diagnostic solution. Moreover, the future will be fueled by most important thing today is the data. And I think this data-driven approach will not only enable proactive and preventive care, but also contribute to the advancement of medical research and population health management in totality. Looking further into the future, we can envision a world where diagnostics plays a pivotal role in disease of prevention. That's very, very important today. Everybody's focused on preventive health. And actually, if you can prevent health and get the delay or onset of any disease by good lifestyle and early diagnosis, that takes a lot of care from our burden on a healthcare structure. Then I think the whole approach is now really changing from from illness to wellness or reactive to proactive. I think this is another area we're all looking forward to. However, as we embark on this journey towards the future diagnostic, we must also address the challenges that lie ahead. Data privacy, security, inequality, regulatory frameworks, they need to be evolved to keep pace with the rapidly changing landscape. The technology is changing very, very fast. Regulations have to really cope up with that. I think a lot of things need to be done together to make sure that things happen on the ground. Collaboration will be the key in shaping the future of diagnostic, whether it's a public partnership or academic or institutions, or whether it's research people or devices or the industry who are actually doing the testing and healthcare providers. All of them had to come to a similar platform and exchange the knowledge of information. The world has become one. I think not only India, probably all across the globe, we have to adopt the best practices and translate into the action. Now, in conclusion, I'll say that the future of diagnostic for India holds immense promise. Technological advancements and emerging trends can transform the way we approach the diagnosis. By harnessing the power of innovation, collaboration, and data-driven insight, we can usher in an era where diagnostic truly becomes the cornerstone of proactive, personalized, and patient-centric health system. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our all distinguished speakers and our partners and each one of you for joining us today. Together, let us unravel the mysteries, envision the possibilities, and embark on this accelerating expedition into the future of diagnostics. Thank you so much for being here again. And with this, I'd like to invite Dr. Jitendra, sir. I think we'd like to hear from you because I think a lot of activities happening and you have been into NHRC and you've done a lot of health technology work, and that's just where I think the future lies. You know the past, you're doing for the future. And welcome, Dr. Sharma. We'd like to hear from you, sir.
Thank you very much. And at the outset, most grateful to ASSOCHAM for creating this forum. I'll keep myself brief because even I would like to hear to Dr. Renu Sarup more, because that's we all can create a strategic roadmap for our individual activities and institutional strategies. Ravi Gaurji, if you remember in 2015, when I designed the National Diagnostics Program of India for the Ministry of Health, it was launched by the then Health Minister, Shri Naddaji in Shimla. And you were part of the consultation of the National Diagnostics Program. The biggest problem of diagnostics was allowing reagents and consumables to reach peripheral areas at the right time, having skilled phlebotomist and lab technician to test the sample, reporting the sample at the right decision node in critical care. And as a policy, we realized that this entire thing cannot be done only by public sector. So under the National Health Mission, the Mission Steering Group of National Health Mission cleared the public-private partnership-based National Diagnostics Program. Today, there are more than 13 lakh sample collection points under that program, and 26 states and union territories do PPP-based National Diagnostics Program, which is paid for by National Health Mission under the annual PIP. The point I'm trying to make is that was the expansion of the market. Because finally the market is decided by consumers, not by producers and researchers. Unless we have the right consumption gateway, it wouldn't happen. We created the consumption gateway in 2015. Then came the enormous impetus that Department of Biotechnology and ICMR brought in for production and research part of the diagnostics. And then came our enemy come friend called COVID. Enemy because it's against the society, friend because it gave us an opportunity. We converted the challenge into an opportunity. Again, thanks to Dr. Renu Swarupji to have led the consortiums that took care of the component and raw material value chain. Now, today, I have a good news to tell you. The good news is India's medical devices import have contracted for the first time in 12 years by 5%. First time in 12 years. This gain is not gain of today and yesterday, it's a gain of years of effort. And our exports have gone up by 14.8%, which means net on net, we have kicked the trade deficit by 20%. Import reduction by 5% and export by 15% is a huge gain for a country. However, when you look at the diagnostics market of 6 lakh crore, we are somewhere less than 3 or 4%. Now, the point I'm trying to make it is India's medical devices, medical technology portfolio is going like a train or an aircraft, and diagnostics portfolio is going like a bicycle or a scooter. Its speed is not matching because if import has reduced by 5% and export by 14 or 15%, the diagnostics growth story should have been more or at least equal to this next story because diagnostics is a market, is a part of the whole. I think that is where all our efforts have to converge and we have to play a catch-up game within the family of medical technology in India and diagnostics family globally. And here is 4 or 5 things that I think we can use to catch up on that game. Now, when COVID came, and we know that because under the DBT AMTZ command consortia, we today, at the peak of COVID, India was testing 12 lakh 50,000 RT-PCR a day. AMTZ alone can produce 16 lakh kits a day today. Just one campus. I'm not counting rapids, which we can produce about 16 lakhs and so on. But quantity is not a problem in terms of delivery to the client and the patient. But the gaps that we need to close lie in 4 or 5 distinct verticals. We had less kit validation centers, and thanks to efforts of multiple people, DBT, Niti Aayog, now we have many laboratories that can do kit validation. But kit validation require panels, and India does not have enough panels. In fact, National Institute of Biologicals and prestigious institutions like NIV and RE are struggling for panels. And that is where, again, based on discussions that we have had, AMTZ and DBT had agreed to set up a biobank at AMTZ, which will produce panels for kit validation laboratories. And I think Dr. Alka Sharma has to take a leadership role again there, although she has been doing this for many decades. But these are things that require their intervention. Because if a national panel production facility can be set up, it can supply panels to hundreds of kit validation labs for validation of kits. So that is the first gap, which we have the wherewithal to bridge. We have to decide to do it. The second is, Diagnostics need diagnostics instrumentation. And if you look at these instrumentations, the sensors, the photodiodes, the boards, the printed circuit boards that comes in to make these instruments, they all have inverted duty structures. Customs duty on these needs to be calibrated in such a way that it is easy to either make in India to lead to final product manufacturing, or the customs duty should be so low that integration in India should be possible. We don't yet make in India good quality RT-PCR machines, for example. We may make 1.5 million kits a day, but not a single machine a day. And I think spare parts and components, tariff duties have to be set right. The third is the role the genomics have to play in complementing molecular diagnostics. Because multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, for example, we still don't have genomic-based point-of-care diagnostics. We are working very aggressively, but I think the focused call for innovators, which can allow startups to address these problems, is something that needs a platform. And ASSOCHAM, AMTZ, BIRAC, these are the platforms that country has. We should be able to put our resources together to allow startups to come up, innovators to come up, just like they did in COVID for COVID diagnostics. The fourth, and this is last but one point that I want to mention, is what you mentioned, complementarity of imaging with diagnostics. That has not been exploited. So diagnostics is playing a great champion role. Radiology imaging is playing teleradiology and X-rays and CT scans playing a great role, but they have not converged. So still, for example, we don't have, for example, vans as we built for DBT, the first van, and now we are making it as a product, the mobile laboratories. We still do not have vans that can do chest X-ray with TB diagnostics. Imagine chest X-ray with artificial intelligence based on millions of X-ray images and sputum or next-gen technology for TB. If diagnostics and imaging could be put together, I think we will have very rapid and scalable solutions. And my last point is on the diagnostic industry. I go to good laboratories, and good laboratories give me good reports. After 3 months, I go to another good laboratory, and another good laboratory gives me another good report. But these two good reports from two good laboratories are not kept at the same place because the diagnostic chains keep it in their own hospital information management system. But if you look at Digi app, Digi Yatra, that we all use today to check in into airports, our boarding passes, our Aadhaar cards, everything is stored in our digital locker, the citizen Digi locker. And therefore, my fifth and the last point is that diagnostic, because I've seen National Diagnostics Program of India creating a market, and DBT, AMTZ, ICMRs creating the diagnostic production capability. But I think citizen-centric approach is still missing. If diagnostic labs could start storing diagnostic reports in the Digi locker of the citizens, not only citizens will have a trail of diagnostic information, but this mine of data will be brilliant for bringing out new technologies. So with these 5 points, I give it over back to you. Thank you for having me here, and we look forward to hearing Madam in some time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. It was a pleasure hearing you. In fact, really highlighted the very, very important points, and which is very relevant. And I think over this panel discussions we have actually talking about these points on the integrated, how to integrate it together, how to make sure that our devices, Indian manufacturers put up the devices out there. Of course, I think the compliment, I say your efforts of 13 lakh sample collection centers is very well applauded. And I think I'm more going to see as we move forward. I think once we're done with it, we'll definitely come back to you with your advice and opinion. And I look forward to hear now from Dr. Renu Saru. Ma'am, I think you have been a part of the COVID, and of course you are really been supporting of startups and SMEs also, and you have huge great ideas for innovation. I'd like to hear from you what are the key challenges, how we are diagnosing the C stands, and what's the future, and how we can take forward what challenges Dr. Sharma has mentioned to us. Dr. Renu, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gaur, and thank you for having me here. I think this is a very important topic that you have listed for your webinar today, the future of diagnostics. Clearly, because we do recognize now in the country that India already has a position in diagnostics, recognized not just by the nation, but also globally. And Dr. Jitendra Sharma highlighted many of the aspects. You yourself, Dr. Gaur, in your opening remarks, highlighted the plethora of technologies which is currently available. And these are not technologies which are only theoretically available. We have practically seen the results of these. And as has been said, COVID, whether an enemy or a friend, Jitendra, that is for us to see. But clearly, it gave us an opportunity, not just to be able to deliver, to respond to the societal needs and challenges, but also to introspect and see where our gaps were. Where is it that we need to, because we've all been for many, many years now, been working very hard to create a very robust innovation ecosystem that helps us to deliver affordable and accessible products which are important for the society. We have, through these years, created a translational ecosystem. In fact, the whole value chain, right from an idea to a product to market, through different programs, the Department of Biotechnology through its own schemes, which I'm sure Dr. Alka Sharma, the senior advisor here, will talk about. BIRAC, which is the unit public sector of DBT, which has been instrumental in creating the biotech innovation ecosystem. All these ICMR, DST, CSIR, Niti Aayog, Atal Innovation Mission, the whole robust ecosystem existed. But we didn't realize that COVID would actually give us a time where we will be able to put this to test to see, does it really work? You know, it's like putting together a whole machinery and then not being able to bring it into the ground to see whether it works. When we put it onto the ground to action, we realized that the ecosystem was there, but there were many nuts and bolts which were missing, and those needed to be strengthened. And I think that's what we really worked during COVID times. One, of course, is trying to see how we make them affordable and accessible. How do we scale our innovations? How do we do it in the shortest possible period of time? And most importantly, how does it reach the last mile? How does it reach the remote corners and the last person who needs access to it? So all this was done, and through this, it gave us an understanding. We brought in the reforms which were required, whether it was the biobanks that have just been talked about, whether it was a regulatory framework that was required, or whether it was just creating a demand aggregation in which we brought together the manufacturers and different groups who then ensured that there was a supply. There was a supply chain that matched the demand aggregation. And this was all because we obviously realized that we were going to be totally dependent on our internal resources. It was totally a domestic resource, which would be a domestic supply. And at that time, of course, only for domestic consumption. Today, we are ready to be able to supply it globally as well. So I think this gave us the strength and the confidence with which we stand today to take forward the topic that you have put in, the future of diagnostics. So where are we? It's important for us to just step back and say, okay, after all that has happened, where are we today? Today, we have the best ecosystem that I just spoke to you about, and we all know about it. To a group like this, I don't want to talk about it. We have today science which has brought forward the best of technologies. We also today have the technology integrated with the diagnostic development and manufacturing to a very great extent. I think what is now important is making sure that we scale up these activities to the extent that it's required. So if I break it into three parts, I think the ideation part is probably done. We've moved into the developmental part, but I think the deployment part is where we need to focus on currently. Now, deployment requires many, many aspects of it, whether it's and brings in affordability, accessibility, quality, various aspects of it. But I think it's also important for us to remember that if you're looking at a public health challenge, which COVID was, and we will keep having such challenges and crises that go on, our challenge today is how do we reach those public health centers? How do the PHCs get access to what we are putting in on one aspect? And yes, of course, our commercial market for the tertiary centers or for commercial activities is important. In this, we need to focus on not just the integration of technology with diagnostic, but the coming together of all stakeholders. Today, the startups that we have, and AMTZ is definitely one of our major centers which has been able to support this in a big way. But I think we are currently now at a situation where we need more stakeholders to come together. The public-private partnership needs to be strengthened, and I'm glad that ASSOCHAM is taking this forward. You have the opportunity, the wherewithal to be able to bring this forward and see how we take it ahead. Now, where do we look at industry becoming a partner? Generally, because we've supported a very strong startup ecosystem, startups develop technologies. We have the plug-and-play system, which exists in AMTZ and many others, where they take forward for pilot production and in certain cases manufacturing. One step before that, we have these excellent biodesign centers that we have set up across the country. The first was at AIIMS working with IIT, and I'm sure Dr. Alka Sharma in her talk will speak about it. Today we have many of those where the clinicians work along with the biochemical engineers to be able to see how they bring in new technology for diagnostic development. Where we find a problem is, one is the validation labs and the panels, etc., which Jitendra was talking about, where you need to give them those resources, but you need validation test beds. Now, these validation test beds are a huge crisis for many of our innovators. And they need to do it in actual settings to be able to work out the costs, etc. Each time I've spoken to the state health departments, I've said health departments should actually make available sentinel sites in the PHCs, etc., which become test beds. Similarly, if industry bodies who are going to go into large scale manufacturing actually engage with these startups at the part of developmental stage or late developmental stage, deployments would become easier because they would be partners in the validation itself. And I think it's that sort of partnership that we would like to see as we move on. We have spoken between Dr. Gaur, you and Dr. Sharma about important aspects which have covered three priorities, which in my, I think really need to be focused on. And one is the policy, the programs which drive that policy, but most importantly, the people who will be at the heart of that program to take it forward. So unless we keep our attention focused on these three Ps, it'll be difficult for us to move ahead. Policy, incentives, initiatives, how we bring in, what we could overcome at COVID time was because of a lot of policy decisions that we took. And I think those policy recommendations are something which bodies like yours are the right bodies to make through these sort of roundtables, discussions which you are doing. Evolve programs around it to see where those programs, and every program need not be only a government driven program. It has to be a program where you bring in partnership. But if you need to have these programs which move on, you need the capacities for it. And I think today what we need is a very, very strong capacity building initiative where we bring in the right people, because if you're going to spread this at scale across the country, you will at some point of time realize that you do not have sufficient people, despite the fact that we say we are rich in our skilled human resource. You will need to focus that. And I think training and capacity building is probably what bodies like ASSOCHAM should work with, maybe centers like AMTZ and many others, which are centers of excellence, which can take up these sort of training, which could be for each of the activities that we take on, including the regulatory sciences. I think it's very appropriate, and you mentioned it as well, if we are going to bring in newer technologies, the regulatory science has to be updated and keep pace with these new technologies. Because we should not be caught at a situation when new technology diagnostics are ready to move into the market, and yet we do not have the regulators ready to be able to give us the clearances on that. The last point that I would like to emphasize on over here is today we have new technologies, whether it's AI technology, whether it's genomics, whether it's our different predictive diagnosis or precision diagnosis, any of these. But today, the access is limited only to a few, mainly because of the affordability aspect. We have technologies of genomic diagnostics which are not being able, we are not being able to translate it into action into our newborn or prenatal screening programs in different states. Why today, through these new technologies, we are not being able to launch large state surveillance programs for many of our activities? I think that is really where these programs need to be integrated. This would be not just for our own consumption, but India, as Jitendra has said, exports have already gone up, can be a global hub to be able to do that. So in conclusion, we are all ready. Our scientists, our researchers, our startup, we are future ready. I think what we need to do is now ensure that we connect all these dots so that we could be able to take it forward with the momentum and with the expectations which everyone has from us today, both nationally and globally. So thank you very much, Dr. Gaur, for me to giving me a chance to share my views with you.
Very, pleasure hearing you. It was very, very, insightful. And I must say that, because of people at the helm of affairs like you and Dr. Sharma, I think you have seen of late, many IITs, doctors and diagnostic centers are now probably partnering them or put an incubator inside. They're working out together. The first time probably has happened in the Indian history. And I'm sure much more will happen soon. I think you are the people are the driving force. I think right importantly part is here is the policy, and we've already mentioned about it. I think we need to ASSOCHAM definitely like to work on it, and of course the 5 important points that Sharma has mentioned. Couple of them we are all working, and unless you scale up, because for scaling we definitely require a support. We require policy making strategy. Demand exists today. I think that Dr. Sharma has already mentioned that it's been done. It's there. People are waiting for us to deliver. I think unless we collaborate together, unless we are together, I think we will not be able to do that. The diagnostic holds, need not to say, immense significance for the healthcare landscape in India today, or even worldwide for that matter. As we delve into the realm today, tomorrow, and the future, we must explore and ensure its correct utilization. That's what we're here for. Thank you so much for both of you being here, and it's my pleasure to have hear you. I'd like to, invite now Abhimanyu Roy, who was the executive director for the Avalon Consulting. We have actually put together a white paper, which is about, innovation and collaboration catalyst for brand building in India Diagnostic Center. And just a little 2 minutes inside about white paper, and followed that we'll release in white paper. Abhimanyu, please.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a privilege and honor for me to be presenting some of the findings that we have on the white paper that we have produced. I think the purpose of this document was like an accompanying note to this webinar. So this document may not contain the solutions to this very complex issue that the diagnostics industry faces. And while writing this document and seeking inputs from all the organizing committee members, we also realized that there are many dimensions to the issue of diagnostics in India. We are talking of innovation and collaboration, and how these two themes can be used to drive a lot of change in this industry. So the purpose of this document was to just highlight the characteristics of this market. We have a very large, given our population, it's a very large market. And there are lots of positives in this industry which we wanted to highlight. So having highlighted those positives, we wanted to bring out the challenges that this industry faces. And therefore, this document essentially leaves behind some questions. It does not maybe propose immediate solutions. A lot of those will come out in the discussion today. And a lot of the interesting points have already been made by the distinguished speakers already. So I just wanted to just give a quick 2-minute snapshot of what the document is about. It essentially captures the characteristics of the market. It highlights the fact that it's a huge market. It's 70,000 crores in FY21. That's the official estimate. And we all know that it's a very, very fragmented space. If we just look at the mix between standalone labs and government labs and the national chain labs and other chain labs, the share of the larger players is still quite small. And the bulk of this market is therefore standalone single point labs with variable quality, with maybe a basic equipment. So what they have managed to do is they've managed to take the services to the market, deep and wide into the market, but possibly the latest technologies, the latest tests are still not available to a wide part of the market. So one of the questions we want to address is on access, which is that how do we take the latest tests to a larger part of the market? The way the industry has evolved is that the larger players have created a hub and spoke model. They have created large labs, they've created satellite labs, and they've used that to go to the deeper parts of the country. But there is a limitation to that, because after a point, the cost of logistics, the cost of transporting the sample from a small rural area to a larger city becomes quite challenging. Therefore, some innovation is required here. Larger players should collaborate. There should be ways of sharing infrastructure. There should be ways of optimizing the cost of transport. There can be very interesting ways of working together. For example, we are already hearing of using drones to transport samples. There are concepts of suitcase labs, which are like taking the lab to the patient. There is point of care. So there are lots of technological innovations that can come in to drive access. Secondly, the nature of the tests that are being done in India is still very routine. Some of the while all the array of tests are available now with the big companies, but the specialized testing is still under-penetrated. And the reason for that is that it's still higher cost. The reagents, the kits, the cartridges, the equipment, all of these are still, there is a issue of utilizing the capacity and being able to make it more affordable. So the routine versus specialized testing is a issue that we wanted to highlight. We wanted to emphasize that specialized testing needs to go to the masses, especially things like genomic-based testing. And many of these specialized tests are now relevant for India because India has a large, for example, endocrinology-based tests for diabetes, cancer diagnostics, autoimmune diagnostics, a host of areas, infectious diseases, TB, for example. These are all areas which are public health issues and where specialized testing can play a big important role. So the idea is, how do we take these specialized tests to the masses, bring down the costs? And obviously the solution is multifaceted. There is a question of affordability, which is about larger volumes, scale, economies of scale, and therefore lowering the per unit cost. And there is a question of access, of taking it to the next level. And then finally, there is also the whole regulation question. So labs, we are supposedly having 150,000 labs in the country, but the bulk of them are very small, unorganized, with very basic facilities, highly unregulated in that sense. The key accreditation bodies have very low penetration in India currently. Hardly a few of the labs have a standardized accreditation process. And therefore, needs to be some thinking around how do we standardize the offering? How do we ensure that the patient gets a reliable, uniform experience across different centers? And there are a host of other regulation issues around how the new latest technologies need to be regulated. So what do we do about software as a medical device? What do we do about AI being used in diagnostics? All of these pose regulation-related questions. The regulators need to have clear processes and standards to register such devices as diagnostics and be able to offer a standardized test offering in that regard. So these are some of the issues that we have highlighted. If we can just switch to the next page. So in a nutshell, the theme of the document is on access, affordability, and assurance. These are the three areas where There is need for innovation and collaboration between industry and government. And we have highlighted some points around innovative ways of accessing the market, which is, for example, how can PPP be made more, taken more in a more widespread manner? There are several PPP projects already happening, wherein the private parties, the equipment makers, the private service providers have gone and created quality, capacity, and operations inside government hospitals. So can the PPP model be really scaled up to take it to the last mile, to take it to the primary health center level? That's a question we have asked. And what does it take really to enable that? If and when the national essential diagnostics list does get implemented across by different state governments, can the PPP model be used effectively to take diagnostics to the last mile? The standardization question I have already discussed. Then the topic about local manufacturing, which anyway is a burning issue. Local manufacturing is a big concern of be it IVD reagents or IVD devices or even the radiology equipment. And therefore, we have suggested that there needs to be a systematic thinking around how do we localize. We cannot from day one sort of expect a high level of local value addition. It has to be phased. It has to start by assembly. And for example, in devices, the first step is assembly, then the second step is component localization. And we have given some examples of products and devices where this could be done. Of course, the PLI, which came up recently, has taken the first step in this direction, and it's a very welcome step. And everyone feels that this will drive the first set of locally made India products with high level of India value addition. Technology and R&D is anyway the need of the hour. There are a lot of technological solutions we have talked about. And finally, the government is, of course, the interface between the private sector and the consumer, and with the government and the private sector collaborating, the industry can really develop further. Thank you.
I think this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Roy. I think now, just to catch up with time quickly, I would like to invite Dr. Gaur to kindly introduce, release the white paper that we've been waiting for. So, Dr. Gaur, kindly inaugurate. Lovely. Thank you so much. Congratulations to the whole team. Thank you once again to all our partners, DRG Path Labs, Becton & Dickinson, Roche, Avalon Consulting, and Medical Buyer. With this, we move on to our next session, which is a regulatory framework for sustainable growth. May I invite Mr. Sudhakar Marpadi, South Asia Regulatory and Government Affairs Director, Becton & Dickinson India, to take it forward. I'm so sorry, I apologize. The first session, it has to be Dr. Gaur. Very, very sorry. So for the first session is strengthening and driving of diagnostic sector in India. So Dr. Gaur, could you please take it forward from here?
Yes, I think, thank you, everyone. And I think we just had the inaugural session. We had a pearls of wisdom from Dr. Renu Swaroop and of course, Dr. J.K. Sharma. They really gave a detailed insight. And I'm glad because to hear what they said, because I think most of the things what they were mentioning, I think it's actually we are also trying to speak about. That's a synergy. There is actually a similar mind, the thought process. And I'm sure when these things together, I think more synergy and more collaboration happen, success is bound to be there. Thank you for everybody. I think we just released a news white paper also. It will reach all of you in time. And I'm sure your input further will be very helpful to us. Now, welcome to this first session, which is of the strengthening and driving of diagnostic center in India. I have with me, I'm actually privileged to have such a wonderful, and such a senior experts on my panel. And welcome and good afternoon to each and every one of you, sir. I'll have a quick round of introduction. I think we have with us Dr. K. Madan Gopal. I think, sir, welcome, and I think it's pleasure to have you here and hear you because the kind of work you have done. He is, of course, a known, the advocate of public health administration, NHRC. I think everywhere where we talk about the policy devices or policy or diagnostics or innovation, he is an or health system export reforms. Dr. Gopal has been there, has been the face, and I think we'll be glad to hear you, sir, as we move into the panel discussion. Thank you, sir, for being here. Also, I have with me Ms. Naga Vashni, and welcome, Nagaji. She's an Assistant Director, Medical Equipment and Hospital Planning Department, BIS, and I think she's from IIT Hyderabad. I think that's a very, very important part today because when we talk about devices, validation, and the standardization and the quality and the policy, of course, the training and skill also, because that's going to play a very, very important role. We'd like to hear it from you as we move forward. Welcome, Naga.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me, IC. Thank you.
Sure, my pleasure. Then I think, sir, I have my pleasure to introduce Mr. Suresh Wazirani. I think, sir, welcome. And so nice of you to spend your time and being with us. He's a known figure. I think the chairman and managing director, Transasia Biomedicals Limited. I think Transasia, I think anybody who talks about diagnostics, especially in pathology, are well aware or maybe a user of Transasia for that matter, not only India, probably the entire South Asia or worldwide. I think it's a known, I think it's like a home for us when we talk about Transasia, and I think you've done it and you're great work done, sir. We'd like to hear from you as you move forward. Your wisdom will be very helpful to us. Mr. Atul Grover, I think welcome, Atul. He's the managing director, India and South Asia BD. Of course, BD has been there known for logistics and all kind of a support which is required, medical quality controls. I think, and not in India, it's a multinational group and done a great work. And we'd like to hear from you, Atul. Welcome. Also, I have with me Ms. Veena Kohli, CEO and founder of Vanguard Diagnostics. Ms. Veena is, of course, again, an entrepreneur, and of course, she's been into industry for a long time, and she's really working innovative methodology. I'd like to hear from you, Dr. Veena, as we move forward. I have with me Rajiv Nandan. He's a head market assistant government affairs, Alcon Laboratories. I'm sure when we talk about PPP and all association, probably insight will be very helpful. Welcome, Rajiv. I have also with me Mr. Bhaskar Maladi. He has studied Agape Diagnostics. Agape is another Indian company, manufacturing company. They are actually in devices and, of course, actually try to penetrate a tier 2, tier 3 market. I'd like to hear from you, Mr. Maladi, as we move forward. I think this is let's elaborate on a big panel I have with me. And I think it's a pleasure to have you again. And without wasting much of the time, I think I'd like to straight away move on, like what we want to talk about today. So today we are on a fascinating journey to explore the new world of diagnostic and envision the incredible possibilities that lie ahead. Now, diagnostic is something like a Google map. They say, it gives you the right direction. It takes you the right direction. But of course, when as happens in Google also, you land up with a stop block. Suddenly you find the dead end, or it takes you a shortcut, and shortcut never works. So it's, I think, a very interesting scenario today, what we have today. And as we delve into the realm of medical diagnostics, we are reminded of the immense value these fields bring into healthcare, whether it's pathology or radiology. I think everything, or even cardiology, everything is getting important, and diagnostic has become a center point of healthcare today. We have lined up all the esteemed speakers, and I think they will take us to the journey and what we're going through. So we'll uncover all this as we move forward. And my first question that I'll straight away move to Mr. Wazirani, sir. This diagnostic sector, because plays a very crucial role in healthcare delivery. And what are the key challenges you face? Because you have seen the journey right from there to here. I'd like to hear from you, about 5 minutes. What are your views about it, sir?
Thank you, Dr. Gaur. It's a pleasure to see you again and all these stalwarts here. Well, you talked about the growth of diagnostics. I mean, I happened to found Transasia 44 years ago when the diagnostic was hardly talked about. In terms of the equipment, every lab, all they had was a microscope and a centrifuge. That's it. That was the medical equipment in the laboratories those days. So it has been in a way, privilege and a pleasure to bring automation to India. I remember the first equipment that Dr. Lal bought happened to be from me, the first cell counter. Same I can say with Dr. Sushil Shah of Metropolis. The very first equipment they bought was from my company, personally sold from me here. So I've seen that in 44 years. Of course, the diagnostics has come a long, long way. Now, even if you go to a small town, you will see a pretty high level of automation there. You'll find maybe a fully auto analyzer. Cell counter is almost a norm today. Similarly, so I'm very happy to see the way the laboratory has grown from almost just a microscope plus centrifuge to what it is today, to the automation. And of course, the number of laboratories has grown too. Today in India, nobody knows the exact number like everything else. But we estimate there are about 1 lakh laboratories active today in India. In 44 years ago when I started, there were only about 1,500 laboratories. So from 1,500 laboratories to 1 lakh laboratories is really indeed a big jump. Why diagnostic has grown so much? Because I'm very happy that medical fraternity, the government appreciates the role played by diagnostics in healthcare. We all know that 70 to 80% of the clinical decisions depend on the diagnostic test. You go to any doctor, the first thing he says, "Where is your blood report?" Without blood report, not much can happen. So it will come indeed a long way, and we realize the importance of the diagnostics. If that wasn't not enough during COVID, even a child would know that there's a thing called laboratory, thing called blood tests. So this is a great transformation in the environment that we are living in. I said today there are more than 1 lakh laboratories, and the amount of private equity funding that is coming to diagnostic is amazing. Everybody wants to grow, but sadly, even today, more than 70% Indians never had a blood test. Now that is the other part of. We have wonderful India, and here we have the Bharat. So in our Bharat, most of the people don't know anything about blood tests or diagnostics. So I would say that most of them don't know whether do they have diabetes? No, they have no idea. They've never done a blood sugar test. Do they have hypertension? Do they have cholesterol? Do they have kidney thing? No, they are totally in the dark because they never done a blood test. So this is where I believe that the future has to take. My dream is that of a healthy and happy India, where every Indian gets to do his blood test at least once a year. I mean, I'm calling it a dream, though in most other countries it is a norm, but in India we still have to think of it as a dream, where every single Indian can do a blood test at least once a year, so that he knows where he stands, what his health is. And I'm hopeful that in our lifetime we can see this transformation, where every Indian knows where he stands as far as health is concerned. So that's the challenge. How do we take the diagnostics to every single Indian in our country? That is the biggest challenge to us. As I said, 70% Indians still do not do blood tests.
I think so. Well said. I think we all think like a message probably could be more on the side. 70% of Indians haven't got blood tests done. Maybe they have a good health, but I think it's other way, because I think diagnostic is needed to keep health good. That's most important. It's not good health problem. We require diagnostic to keep the health of the country, health of the people, and our health good. I think the dream, I'm sure, we are all working towards the same direction that everyone at least should have one preventive health check done every year and a basic couple of things which has been done. I think this is all. I think we heard Dr. J.K. Sharma in the previous session talking about 13 lakh now sample collections of points in the country. I think those are something for growth which has happened over last 2 decades. And I'm sure every corner we will probably find a ATM. You can find a Pepsi counter, but you can't have a phlebotomist chair. I think in many of the places. But I'm sure this is going to work, and I'm sure we all want to make it together. We have to do it together for ourselves and our generations to come.
Right.
Now, thank you, sir. I think my next question, I think when you talk about, I think all our cause we can't, like to Rajiv Nandan. Rajiv, I'd like to hear from you because everybody's talking about, the making it happen with last 10 years. I think Indian healthcare is driven by, or diagnostics is driven by private people. I think it's important to have it's not together unless we have a public-private partnership, we cannot actually make it happen. So I'd like to hear from you about the public-private partnership, have the potential to strengthen diagnostics, collaborate, what are the challenges, and how do you translate it actually the dream of Mr. Wazirani talking about, which is all of our dream, that every Indian should have one preventive health checker here. Mr. Rajiv, please.
Opportunity.
You're on mute.
Is it?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you, Rajiv.
Okay, great. So thanks for this opportunity. I think looking at the healthcare in India, I think the size, the population, the need of the country, the funding by the government, there's no doubt among us that a government alone can't do everything, right? And so is the case with diagnostic, services. And that is why it is very much inevitable that there has to be a public-private partnership. There is no doubt around that. While Dr. Sharma was also talking about that 13 lakh, sample collection center among 22 states. What Dr. Vajirani, Mr. Vajirani has said is also a reality, right? 70% people are not didn't have any blood test in their lifetime. So where are these centers? And it means there is a gap in actual the numbers and the reality, right? So looking at the challenges, I think the way forward is definitely we need to complement the efforts of the government and see. The conundrum today still continues whether government wants to take up the role of a provider or as a payer. And this question has become more relevant after the introduction of Ayushman Bharat. While we can always think that so far before that government was largely a provider and less of a payer, except certain schemes which was a government initiated scheme. The challenges were there, like as a provider, there was an opportunity for the country to have more hospitals and different diagnostic centers, largely on infrastructure side and operational side. Even there is a potential opportunity for slowdown of social insurance growth in that sector. And once you act like a payer, you can pay the healthcare services provided by the private sector, but again slow down the infrastructure uh, of the country, especially in terms of beds and the facilities, which private companies or private sector cannot do alone. So ideally, as a payer, the issue can be resolved by this adopting PPP models as the provision of having private players, as it is predicted to have a much higher growth. But looking at this challenge, the PPP model is not new. It was introduced in 2015, and after that, these services have been taken up by the industry and the government very well. And all there were different services at different healthcare centers like sub centers, PHC, CHC, and district hospital level. Different types of tests were made available freely. Coming back to the same number that what's happening that 70% of people are not having, kind of even a blood test. So what I'm saying is the challenge of diagnostic sectors in India is not different from the healthcare sector challenge, right? And the challenge remains of the scale.
Hear you noise. Your voice is actually breaking, and something is wrong. Network looks like. So
To
I'll
everyone.
probably get back to you. Maybe I think maybe you can recheck your system. I think we'll come back to you. I think meanwhile.
Okay. Okay.
I think I'll just move on before the next question. I will come back to Rajiv again. I think by the time I'm sure networks will be sorted out. I think we're talking about. He's mentioned very important thing, the PPP, public-private partnership, and I think we also heard into the earlier conversation Dr. Renu talking about another P. That's a policy, public-private partnership, and the right kind of a policy. And I like to add on with the seeing all the veterans and industry expert on the forum right here. I think the passion, the public-private partnership with passion and policy, I think that is going to be the delivery model as we move forward. My next question is Dr. Veena Kohli. Veena, I think you have a scientific mind. You've grown through new technologies. I think where it is, like we have talked about ideation to scaling up in the inaugural session. How would you feel that industry academic linkage foster access to technology infrastructure and self-reliance, because these things are very, very important to my mind. Your views on this, please, Veena.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, okay. Good evening, everyone. And the most effective example of successful industry academia collaboration was demonstrated during the COVID times. With the help of the academia and the regulators, the industry was able to have a joint installed capacity to produce 1 crore RT-PCR tests per day and another 1 crore tests for the detection of antigens and antibodies for COVID-19. And it was really nice to hear from Dr. Renu Swaroop ma'am and Dr. Jitendra Sharma ji today, because they were the people who were really spearheading this new moment of industry academia collaboration during the COVID times while being at the helm of affairs at DBT, BIRAC, and AMTZ. And we at the industry, I think we need to take a leap from this experience at all times to continue riding the crest of innovation and indigenization. And the industry had made a request to the government of India to create structured platforms to bring together industry and academia. And it is very encouraging to note that this point finds a place in the National Medical Devices Policy 2023 of India. So there are various ways in which this industry academia collaboration can benefit the Indian diagnostics ecosystem as a whole. And number one, I would say, would be to facilitate easier access to technology. The lack of updated technology is one of the barriers in the path to accelerated growth of the Indian IVD industry. And I always say that there's a treasure trove of technologies and expertise that is housed in the reputed academic institutes and research bodies of our country, namely, just to say a few, IITs, the Indian Institute of Medical Sciences, the CCMB, ICMR, DBT, BIRAC, and many, many others. So the industry really needs to leverage the benefit of the technologies that are available and the technologies that can be developed according to need in the times to come. I've interacted with innumerable R&D technology-rich MNCs and IVD companies of the world, and none of them are ready to transfer the know-how of a recent or emerging technology. All they want to transfer is an obsolete technology at exorbitant prices. So we have no choice. So we'd have to focus on our own in-house R&D and collaborate with the academia to bring about novel products and novel technologies to the Indian diagnostic space. The second way in which this industry academia collaboration can really benefit the ecosystem is to make some of the critical raw materials that are currently being imported into the country at reasonable prices locally. And some of these critical raw materials are like monoclonal antibodies, polyclonal antibodies, synthetic peptides, recombinant antigens, enzymes, primers, probes, proteins, etc. And we all know that in order to develop and manufacture these critical raw materials, one needs a very specialized infrastructure. We need a hybridoma facility, an animal house, a complete system for protein synthesis, purification, fermentation, and so on. And it's not possible for every manufacturer to have an in-house infrastructure to cater to these needs. And a couple of years ago, while I was heading the ATMI, we'd done a dipstick survey of the industry. And we found that the total requirement of the industry for these critical raw materials is not large enough to warrant setting up of a dedicated device park for manufacturing or a manufacturing hub. And on the other hand, when we looked at the academic institutes in the country, we found that the IITs, NIIs, CCMBs already have these facilities that are established, that are standardized, and probably underutilized. So they should be given the permission to share the infrastructure or do something for the industry utilizing the infrastructure that is available. Currently, these institutes do not have the regulatory permission to develop or manufacture these raw materials for the industry, even if they are open to the idea. So the request that we made to the government was that within the infrastructure that is available in these academic institutes, a dedicated area for the development and manufacturing for the industry should be identified, and that area could be inspected, validated, and finally granted the permission to develop and manufacture these raw materials for the industry at reasonable prices. So this would really reduce the learning curve that we currently have towards self-reliance and indigenization. And thirdly, I think this linkage could have an impact on skill development both ways. The students of biomedical engineering, of molecular biology, of medical microbiology, immunology, biochemistry should have an essential semester internship at the industry so that they get the appropriate exposure and they can identify entering the industry as one of the career options. And on the other hand, the industry would then have access to qualified and skilled human resources. And all of it together would make the local industry strong, more robust, and better equipped. And one more point I want to say, which Dr. Sharma also alluded to, that besides the industry academia linkage, there's another very, very critical linkage that we need to establish, and that is between the IVD industry and the pathology labs and hospitals to enable easy access to clinical samples. These clinical samples are like gold and platinum for the Indian manufacturers because they are required at every stage of research and development and for raising the quality of domestically manufactured products to international standards. Thank you.
Well said, Veena. I think this is what we are talking about. I think one of the challenges probably, where Dr. Sharma mentioned about, the diagnostics and they're not grown up as compared to other kind of a segment. Probably sourcing is one of the issues. I think that can be addressed. And of course, I have heard, I'm sure, Amil, this Dr. Madan Gopal is here. When we last, in fact, I purposely kept him on the other side, so that we have, he'll give all the answers. Because there was something, they developed some kind of a platform where all the people who done R&D on work can be listed out something. I'm sure he'll throw some light on it. I think probably more need to be done on that, so that collaboration is happening. Research is happening on one side, scaling is happening on the other side, both together have to come up, and then only probably will deliver. Thank you. We'll come back to you again. The next question is to Atul, actually. Atul, there, right? Atul, now this is all we'll be talking about, but I think there are other ethical considerations and challenges associated with diagnostic industry. Because today it's information technology, data, and so many things we're talking about. In fact, R&D data is lying inside and translating into the industry, the scaling up. That's probably some challenge out there. I'd like to hear from you. What are the ethical consideration challenges and what could be the possible solution? Atul, please.
Sure. Hi. Hi. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope I'm audible. Thank you, first of all, for inviting us and for me being on this panel. Good to see all of you, and thank you for all the attendees here. I think, first of all, I wanted to echo some of the other fellow panelists. I think we have to first understand the criticality of the diagnostics as a segment, right? I think we were reading somewhere that there was some study done that, a diagnostic from a cost to healthcare is only a 5% of the healthcare cost. But actually, it influences 70% of all the healthcare costs which are getting impacted. So when we talk about affordability and all the right treatments happening, I think diagnosis and maybe preventive diagnosis becomes a very, very important part of it. And I think that's where, to some part, as you were saying, Doc, there is a linkage to the ethics part of it, right? So as doing it the right way is very, very important. So I think from our perspective, and we see it based upon our experiences, a couple of things come out which we are seeing. And I know data can be varying, but we do see a lot of standalone labs. I think we saw a report just now, close to 50% labs are maybe standalone. Some of the other reports say 80% of it is unorganized. So depending upon whatever we pick up, I think there is a need for us to work on and work with the government collaboratively to work on some of the standardization of the quality standards which have to be maintained at the hospital, at the labs. I think that's something which we are facing. We are seeing that is impacting a lot of the quality of the test that is happening and the quality of the treatment, which is important. And I know it's a slight linkage to ethics out there, but it becomes also a responsibility from our angle. And I think having those minimum standards and making it compliant, I think will be very, very important. One of the other things which is linked as we are talking about this is the quality of personnel and the data privacy that comes along with that, right? So those two aspects are also becoming very important. Right now, there are very limited regulations. A lot of patient information, I think as we were discussing, is floating around right now in hard copies through multiple the stakeholders who are involved with that. Some of the labs do not have pathologists or authorized signatories out there. So a lot of this data is floating around, which can be misutilized sometimes. And there is a scope which we are leaving out here as an industry for this data to get misutilized. And if you speak with patients, you get certain tests done and they start getting marketing calls from hospitals, so somewhere this data leakage is also happening. So I think as our industry matures, as an industry, I think we should be working and I think as an association as well as with the government to put up these minimum requirements and certain controls in place, which will make sure that we have quality standards in the minimum quality standards there, depending upon affordability, right? We may not all be NABL certified, but those minimum standards, and along with that, the data privacy controls that we need to put in place, especially from a patient safety perspective.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we just missed out. I think it was really important to have this standardization, we to have the framework in place. Otherwise, it really becomes like a barber shop, and there's no uncontrolled growth will not going to work good for the quality, because ultimately, the diagnostics is the central place, and we require whatever we have an automation, whatever technology, but they require a quality control, and every quality is must, because every sample is a life. Unless we handle it that way, I think this is the aim of this, the providing quality, affordable, accessible will not be successful. We have to work on this standardization. Thank you so much for saying that. A quick question to now Mr. Bhaskar. I think you're working in probably very tier 2, tier 3. That's something with the need of the hour also today. But diagnostic is needed to the last man out of the post. So what strategies can be adopted to ensure the cost effectiveness and widespread availability of high quality diagnostic across the country? Your views, please, Mr. Bhaskar. You're on a mute, please.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. So if you look at the accessibility point of view, still, if you look at this Ayushman Bharat kind of health accounts, which government as a policy is driving it, about 40 crores kind of accounts are there. And a lot of, health records are also, digitized with this process, about 27, 28 crores. The core issue is how to make these primary healthcare centers as a fulcrum of actually real activity. India is such a big population. We have widespread, we have widespread diseases, whether it is cancer, diabetes, infectious, respiratory. So there are lots of disease incidents here. So almost we are the capital of this world in many of this, including cardiovascular. So the question is, how does our rural population would get the right kind of diagnosis today, which is not being there, right? That's a more question. One of the things we believe that is really strengthening the primary healthcare system. Now, that is something very well known. Everybody knows about it. It is not something very new about it. But the question is, when it comes to implementation, we are talking about this for many years, but actual reality is still taking a long time. For example, if you look at EDL, this is a topic which is going on for about how many years? 6, 7 years from WHO. Then there are various versions have come out. Now they have the fourth version of 1 and 2 type of, healthcare, set up diagnostic facilities. But we still haven't really implemented that. Even you start something implementing it, maybe you can enhance it later. But from a policy decision, governments are still, working around, but it's just not taking any shape as far as I know. But that is something we really have to really strengthen that. Today, if you say that we have a lot of incidents of hepatitis, TB, right, infectious, where are those? Only probably we know about this in urban areas, but when it comes to rural, do we know the statistics of those? I think we don't have that level. So therefore, we have to see how some of these tests we can do it there and at the primary healthcare centers. One of the ways probably we can do that is we can't get everything there. Very expensive instruments would not be a solution. I think going forward, the point of care would be the driver of improving our access to diagnosis in rural across the country per se, because historically in the Astor years, point of care tests seems to be not of high quality, inferior from a laboratory test point of view, which got probably changed during the COVID times because now people have much more reliability on accepting a point of care test. Now, those point of care tests today are available across even various diseases, including TB, cancer. For example, HPV as a point of care test, for cervical cancer detection among the women. So those are the tests probably can be taken up in any of these primary healthcare centers, because it is anywhere, anytime, anybody can do this kind of tests. So you don't require a lot of expertise kind of a thing. So that is something which we have to really, from policy side, and also it would allow expansion of the industry. I think our industry still is very small. For example, from diagnostics point of view, it's still about less than $2 billion compared to many other countries. So the policy should also allow companies to flourish in order to invest back into development. And so that is something which the policy level, if they can do it, if they expand it, obviously some of the money will come back into R&D in terms of developing many other products, which we currently 80% says we are getting it from outside. So this is one area. The second area is we have now, everybody knows, public-private partnership working in some of the states like UP, probably Rajasthan, Punjab. But this public-private partnership running the labs by a private partner is limited to probably about district level. Is there a way we could go take it up even lower than that, maybe a community health center level? Can that be experimented, right? Maybe primary healthcare centers would be too many, but at least at a community health centers, whether this kind of approach would be possible to implement, thereby the private partner can bring, whether it is quality of testing or manpower or even to some extent accreditation, right? So that is something probably can be explored. I think it can be a workable solution because there will be an interest by the private players because they will be able to, do some good business at the same time able to give you affordable solutions to the, masses. That's the third one. And from an accessibility point of view, for example, how do we know that this many people are there recorded? Are they really using these facilities, right? That's also a challenge in the rural areas. I think we have a pretty decent system, which is, I think everybody today, if they have recorded about 40 crore people have been accounts, they must be having smartphones. And these smartphones, I think we could use it as an AI enabled way that how do we reach out and promote? Yes, you should go and do the testing, what other panelists have said, that once in a year kind of a thing. Even at the going to a primary healthcare center, trying to do 10 to 12 or 15 tests which are there. And secondly, we have also ASHA workers, quickly ending that. ASHA workers, which we have more than 1 million ASHA workers available, and currently they are doing malaria or TB kind of testing. Whether we provide some training to them to see whether they can go back to the families to promote some of these diagnostic tests or health screening kind of a thing, so that their impact would be much more because they are interacting with the families, individuals at rural villages, could be one of those solutions where probably you have to pay more money to all ASHA workers and also provide some training to them to ensure that this kind of process can be developed.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Bhaskar. I think we have to, like, great detail you have spoken about it. And I think now I'm coming to, I think, our the experts who are from the policy makers also and who know the ground realities also actually from the remote areas. So I think the one thing, I like to come, Dr. Madan Gopal, sir. I think the way you heard, because what we are talking about, point of care devices, or talking about at the ground level working, or we talked about, so the government approach to the kind of a thing, or PPP models. So how this will the gap, because at the district hospital or a community hospital, how technology advancement, because you have done a great work in technology, sir. I think I've heard and I've seen your the work translating into the real ground work. The technology advancement is vital in diagnostic sector. How this technology can, whether it's the art AI or machine learning or telemedicine, how can it bridge the gap? And in fact, whatever other points have been raised, I like you to address that and I think hear from you and your wisdom, sir. Dr. Vadan Gopal, sir.
Thank you, Raviji. I think I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, that's fine. So one of the things, because as mentioned earlier by the speakers, talking about the primary healthcare in the country, the whole focus has been on the primary healthcare for the last many, many decades. In fact, we have the essential medicine list for the last 40 years, and we have tried to develop the national essential diagnostic list as well. And the WHO has released the list in 2017-18. So ICMR has brought up the national diagnostic list, essential diagnostic list, which talks about the level of diagnostics right from the village level to a medical college level. So that kind of things are there. As mentioned by Bhaskarji, that means we do have a army of around 1 million health volunteers at the village level who assist in doing this basic test, that is making blood smear, urine, as well as TB and leprosy. That's the basic things. But if you look at the structure of the health system, because everybody has been talking about the primary healthcare system, if you look at the structure at the lowermost level, at a population of 3,000 to 5,000, we have a health and wellness center where the screening for NCDs is happening nowadays. And above that is the primary healthcare center and the community health center and the district hospital, and the chain continues. During the COVID times, we have established that how the technology can play a role, right from creating diagnostics and how the diagnostics point of care devices, they can be useful in management of patients in remotely as well as in the home. So that kind of thing we have demonstrated during the COVID times. Having said this, if you look at the technological improvement, two major breakthroughs which have happened in the medical field is one is the biomarkers and the biosensors. and it revolutionized the way we are using the diagnostics. If you look at the biomarkers, you see how the diagnostics have now evolved. Even now, you're advancing into biotyping, and the treatment is also now getting personalized. We are more or less moving in that direction. The other aspect is the question which you have raised about the use of technology for diagnostics. If you talk about any problem, we have an app or we have a portal solution, web portal. Similarly, as a result, what has happened in the health system also, different programs, they have evolved their websites. Web portals are there. But these web portals don't talk to each other. That means the information which is collected for me for one immunization program, if the same information is collected by the other program, they don't talk to each other. So this dilemma was there. When we were rolling out the PMJ program, when the software was developed, we thought that we should be having a stack, and in this stack, all these programs would be residing, and with a common identifier, these programs would be talking to each other. You see how a common identifier, the Aadhaar and the mobile number, which has resulted in seamless COVID testing and avoiding duplication of that. So you see that what is the importance of a common identifier? When the scheme was rolled out, it created a pathway for creating blueprint for national digital blueprint for the country. So that thing has happened during that time. And after that, it was rolled out as a national digital mission, which envisages to have a patient ID. That means the individual health account. That is giving an ID to a person. His health account would be created. Giving an ID to a health provider, an ID is given to him. An ID to the health institution is to be given. We have seen the benefits of having a common identifier during this COVID time when the data was collected from the labs. Immediately, whenever you send the mobile number was used during that time. So whenever some diagnostic tests were supposed to be done, the COVID test was supposed to be done, immediately the previous reference number used to be populated that you had undergone that test during so and so date. You see, the similar kind of thing will happen when this ABA ID is getting popularized and we started using, and we are we start using it, embedding into the patient records. The next step of using these ABA accounts is to embed that into the patient records. We should at least make a provision into our patient record saying that whether they're having an ABA ID or not. If they're having an ABA ID, then at least later on that ID can be used for at least seeing that what kind of test has happened. But nevertheless, we have been, it is nowadays quite fashionable to talk about use of the AI algorithms, machine learning tools and other things. But for having that tools to be operational and to write an algorithm, you require a quality data. And that quality data and a unified data is only possible when we are able to use these ABA IDs, embedding these ABA IDs into our this laboratory records and other things. That will only come when we have a standard protocols, when we have a quality parameter set in. Instead of waiting for the regulator to have a quality parameter, at least we can start doing this thing at our level so that a quality parameter is maintained. After we have started embedding it, then this can be used it for running writing any algorithms or having a machine learning things. We require quality data, and that quality data can only come if we are able to invest into this. We have done experimentation. We have talked about this AI has been used in diagnostics, more particularly in your X-rays as well as MRI and CT scan, where the AI algorithm which have been written by the programmer, it has outsmarted the radiologist. But nevertheless, the benchmarks and the other things are there. You have to train the machine to make it more intelligent. The training will only come when we start using quality data. The other thing is we can use it for predictive analysis. During COVID time also, you have seen a lot of apps have come up. They say that if the person coughs by just way of his coughing sounds, it can be predicted that whether the person is having COVID or not. That kind of experimentation has happened. And we will be seeing more and more that kind of thing. Now, lot of experimentation is also happening. If a person comes in front of an app, immediately all his bioparameters or other things. They are trying to see that how it is validated with the clinical markers and other things. Things are moving in that. We are trying to increasingly use the decision support system using these algorithms. Apart from that, after the COVID times, what new thing which has happened in the public sector is development of integrated public health laboratories, wherein everybody was talking about the increasing the number of tests. In this public health integrated public health laboratory, we are envisaging to have 134 tests to be done at a single period, particular point of time. Besides doing the uh, uh, supporting the surveillance of the communicable disease and other things. Then the other thing which has been tried and tested very effectively is the telemedicine, which has been increasingly used. We do have now. You see how the things are getting stitched. We do have the national essential medicine list. We now have the national essential diagnostic list. We do have the telemedicine. We do have what are the tests which can be performed at the village level, which we do have what are the tests which can be done at primary healthcare center level, at the community level, as well as at the district hospital. And if a doctor sitting at the higher level, he knows that which are the tests which can be done at the particular level, and through the help of this telemedicine and other things, that kind of thing can be communicated to that. So the system is moving in that direction, and I think
Very
with all the
rightly said. You mentioned a couple of very important points here, and I think I think many of them had translated actually, and we're using it. And that's a great work done by you and your team. And I think a vision you have, and I'm sure it translate into action. And I think one important point you mentioned here was the data and the quality of data, because I think the quality of data we get it from the right skilled people and the right quality of the instrument. I think that's need to be validated. So I think my question, I think I just move on here from here to Naga Vashni ji. When you're talking about quality data, it's produced by the quality, well validated instruments kind of a thing. And you are expertise into that because that's where you are actually. So how do you the government and regulatory bodies create an enabling environment that encourages innovations and of course which is up to the quality standards? I will hear from you, Naga ji.
Very good afternoon all. We in BIS actually formulate standards for medical devices as well as in vitro diagnostic devices, which includes analyzers as well as instruments and softwares which are used for in vitro diagnostics. Government has released the medical device rules to 2017, which has been released by our regulator for IVDs and devices, CDSCO. Which actually specifies in clause 7 the compliance to the standards which are being laid down by Bureau of Indian Standards. We in BIS are supporting the regulations which is being laid down by the government. And with the recent release of the National Medical Device Policy 2023, BIS is also playing a crucial role in streamlining the various regulations which are associated with the devices as well as the diagnostics. And we have taken the list of the classification list which have been released for various devices as well as IVDs by the CDSCO, and we have been proactive in formulating standards on that in order to ensure safety requirements, the quality requirements and the performance requirements are being maintained. Government is also very playing a significant role in promoting Make in India products and making India self-reliant by introducing various PLI schemes as well as promoting medtech parks. With the various government initiatives in order to increase the manufacturing in India and to support the global footprint, we in BIS are formulating standards in order to ensure that the products are safe and quality products are being supplied to the market. government policies are always here to support the industry also. So, so I hope industry and the government works together in order to facilitate the Make in India products in India. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that's where the answers, I think we're looking from devices industry, we're looking forward to, because I think the more the better norms are, technology is evolving fast, validation becomes better, then I think collaboration become better. And I think we'll be able to manufacture those devices which is required in India in India for use in India, and probably from India they be exported out for the worldwide, because Indian whether it's the diagnostics or Indian kind of devices, they're probably the lowest cost in the world. And I think it could be a lesson to the world, like we perform so well in COVID. Why can't we do the same thing in the countries which are lacking in the facilities? I think we look forward to that. I think we have already overshot our time, but I'd like to have a just quick 30-second shot from, I think we'll start from Dr. Madan Gopal, sir. Any last minute, 30-second message for all of us, sir?
One of the important things is for the diagnostic, we should at least start self-regulating us instead of waiting for the regulator. We start self-regulating us, set standards ourselves, and see that how we adhere to the standard. That's the only thing which will go in the long run.
Self-regulation, I think that's what matters most. I think that's where the standards can be. Nagaji, anything from your side?
Government supports. Yeah. Yes. So government is here to support the industry as well. So like the policies are here to support. So it all works hand in hand. So it's a mutual contribution from both sides.
Thank you so much for the assurance. I think we look forward for that, and we'll definitely come back to you with whatever our recommendations are. Mr. Vasirani, are you there, sir? I don't know, Mr. Vasirani. I think. Meanwhile, let's move on to Veena Kohli. Veena, anything because I think today is the time. What do you want to say? Because everybody wants a test before the sample is taken. Anything on turnaround time? You want to say something of that?
I just want to say that we as a fraternity should adhere to the cardinal principle of diagnosis before therapy, so that we can slow down the threat from antimicrobial resistance.
Great, I think great work. Anything, Atul, from your side?
Nothing new to add. So I think I echo on the standardization and self-regulation. Along with that, the training of the personnel. So those two will be the critical things from us.
Yeah, I think standardization is a must. Without that, I think there have to be some basic level of quality before. Otherwise, I think the whole the process will fail. Rajiv, anything from your end?
I hope you can hear me now.
Yeah, better, definitely
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
Sorry, we didn't could hear you earlier.
Yeah. So one of the additional point which I missed and it is missing in the conversation is the how you can expand the basket and the coverage by the insurance company, or for that matter any payer. So as of now, it is being all the diagnosis tests are being paid only when the hospitalization is there. But otherwise, if you can include OPD pre-hospitalization and post-hospitalization, which some companies are doing, so that will expand the market as well. And also, if you can together, campaign with the ministry for having a tax benefit under 80D separately for the diagnosis test, that would also helpful, because in many sectors it has seen that if you incentivize people, then definitely the market can also expand. So these are some of the ways we can also expand the market.
Perfect. Subsection is definitely must. I think we will have. Bhaskar, quick parting statement. Any statement for your end?
Yes, I think we have the technologies, whether imported or local, mostly are available. I think the key is that how do we execute, how do we take it to the rural masses is what is going to be the most critical when we are looking at really making the accessibility of improving the healthcare of our people.
Thank you. Mr. Vasirani, are you there? I think he's probably somewhere mute. We cannot hear you. With this, I'd like to say thank you everyone for a wonderful insight and a discussion. We would have continued for a long time. It was going very interesting, but I think we have the next panel people waiting in the line. I'd like to close down with this small thank you with that. It said we will uncover how these advancements are revolutionizing the accuracy and the speed of diagnosis sooner and sooner. And let's not forget something we've heard about, a campaign in the journey, the automation, the self-guided, self-driven pathology labs. Will they be reality soon? I don't think there should be a problem. Soon we will be, because everything is getting integrated today. We will dive into the new world of diagnostics, exploring the advancement, capabilities, applications, quality, standard, potential, everything for the transformation of healthcare industry. So let's be prepared to be captivated, entertained, informed, and with passion. I think let's embrace the spirit of curiosity, open-mindedness as we envision the future of diagnostic in India. I think, remember, together we can perform, integratingly we can perform, and the need hour today is integrate, be together, collaborate, automate with the use of technology. Thank you so much for everybody being here, and I look forward for you. I think connecting you, hearing you some here again. We'll send the recommendations, and probably we'll welcome to the next panel discussion again. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, all the speakers, and Dr. Ravi Gaur. That was Dr. Ravi Gaur, partner and director, UniDRG Specialty Laboratory, founder DRG Path Labs. Once again, thank you all the supporters, the partners, associate partners, DRG, Roche, Bector and Dickinson, and of course, Avalon Consulting and our media partner, Medical Buyer. So with this, we move on to our session 2, which is Regulatory Framework for Sustainable Growth. May I welcome Mr. Sudhakar Marpadi, South Asia Regulatory and Government Affairs Director, Becton and Dickinson, India. He will be taking the lead. He's the session moderator and session lead for this session.
So good afternoon. It's always a pleasure to take on from our friend Gaur sir. He has set a tone, and with all the experts speaking on a very cohesive coordination and the commitment. Now it is a turn of the session on regulatory framework and sustainable growth. I have on my left our esteemed guest, the regulator, Mr. Asim Sahu, Deputy Drug Control of India, CDSCO. And we will be joined by the Dr. Nivedita Gupta in a couple of minutes, who is a senior scientist, head of division of epidemiology and communicable diseases from ICMR. And we have an eminent specialist from the industry, Vishal Shukla, Deputy Director, NABL, and well-known friend and colleague in the industry expert, Mr. Bhupendra Kumar Rana, founder and CEO of QAI and global expert on healthcare quality and accreditation, board member of ISFTH. And we have Abhinash Chaudhary, the lead government affairs policy from Roche Diagnostics. And we have Prahlad Rai Inani, CFO of Life Care Hospitals. So we will have next 45 minutes, 50 minutes, we'll have an excellent communication from our experts on regulatory front. As you are aware, the regulatory challenges is ever ending because the new technologies keep coming. The regulators will have an opportunity to come out with standards, requirement for the newer challenges. But again, as a technocrats, the industry experts always come up with a newer technology or innovative technologies to work. So there is always be gap, but how in India we have made up so far and how there is an opportunity to address in future. So let us hear from our the regulator first. So first, I'll just before handing over, big kudos to the CDSCO last 5 years. Ever since that medical device rules has come, the lot of our life has changed. There is a respect in the global fraternity that India has coming into the regulatory formal front, and we have a set regulations. Now we can hear from him, and there is a clarity rather than ambiguity, and the innovation, research, and also new product market access has become the better, and people are comfortable in getting the more products into the market. So let us hear from Asim ji. Sir, with the more products expected to fall, higher risk groups are coming into the market post your regulations. How do you expect the rules or enabling the IVD's market access into India. Over to you, Asim sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sudhakar. And before I start, I must thanks the ASSOCHAM to organize this webinar. This webinar on the future of the diagnostic in India with the technological advancement and emerging trends. So, good afternoon, all the speakers and the participants. What the brief the Sudhakar has just conveyed regarding the regulation of the in vitro diagnostic in the country, we are aware that right now we have the full-fledged and comprehensive regulation on the medical devices, including in vitro diagnostics. So since before 2017, we have lot of challenges, and every time that industries are facing there is no clarity on the regulation of this particular type of the diagnostics or the devices, or we don't have the specific requirement for its performance of the study clinical investigation like that only. So if you see the last 5 years, we have the regular interaction with the industry, and so many that interaction we have done, and thereafter we have come up with the a set of the rules called the Medical Device Rule 2017, and that rules all we have covered specific requirement for import, manufacture, clinical performance evaluation, clinical investigations, and the classification. Earlier there is no scope for the classification of the devices. Risk-based classification we have not adopted, and still we are regulating the diagnostic kits before the implementation of the 2017. To address this challenge, we have now come up with the full-fledged comprehensive medical device and in vitro diagnostic regulation, which is at par with the, we can say at par with the global accepted medical device regulations. And in this regulation, we are trying to harmonize the regulation more as compared to the other developed country, because we have lot of challenges with respect to the implementation of this medical device rules. We have constrained on the performance evaluation of all the kits, whatever we are going to approve, and it is available in the market. We have lot of issue with respect to the your monitoring of the IVD kits available in the market for the Indian populations. So slowly, step by step, that government are taking the initiatives, and so many steps has been taken. As far as the new devices which are coming, we are facing lot of challenges. But one thing we have to understand that during the COVID situation, that pandemic situation, we have come up with some solutions, and lot of that decisions we have taken at the time of the pandemic situation. And COVID kit, at that time the COVID kit is new kit for the Indian population, and globally also it is like that only. So very short period of the time that we have developed that, our indigenous manufacturers, they have developed the kit. We have approved that kit in timely manner with certain minimum that requirement, and also to compromise, there should no any compromise on the quality. We have given some sort of the rider, so that we can have the quality product, and that the need of the time that we have approved such type of kits. So such situation we have handled. And now if you see if you compare last 5 years, the COVID at that in 2019 or 20, we have hardly that kit available in the market. Now this time we have more than 500 COVID kits are approved and available, and also we are exporting to the other countries also. So these are the potential in the Indian industry, and we as Indian, we are proud to say that we have now come up with that all the problems of what we have faced, or globally the world has faced. So this is the one of the example that we have I want to convey that as regard to the classification for the in vitro diagnostic kits in the medical device rule, clearly we have mentioned the classification criteria. If you see the second schedule of the medical device rule, there is a specific guideline and parameter we have given for the classification of the medical device and in vitro diagnostic kits. If you see the part 2, which is specific to the in vitro diagnostic kits, where the clear-cut clarification we have given for the classification, and based on that criteria, that parameter, the Central Licensing Authority, that is the DCGI, is authority to classify the devices, and that devices is available in particular class of that what we have classified, and it is given approval for marketing in the country. So rule is clearly mentions the classification, who will the responsible for the classification, and the criteria is clearly mentioned in the second schedule of the medical device rule 2017. Based on that criteria, and also during the classification of the new devices which are coming, we are also seeking that what is the international practices for that particular devices, and based on the international practices of the classifications as well as the criteria which is mentioned in the part 2 of the second schedule for the in vitro diagnostic kits, the Central Licensing Authority is classifying the in vitro diagnostic as per the risk of the class of the risk class of the particular devices. So this is the classification issues. Regarding the challenges faced for the evaluation of these kits, evaluation, if you see the evaluation, we have the hardly that government labs for evaluation of notified by the Central Ministry of Health and Family Welfare for conducting the performance evaluation. But in the meantime, what the ministry has decided, we have identified the ICMR is the nodal agency for all the new in vitro diagnostic kits. We have already identified that ICMR, their expertise, always we are taking at the time of approval of any of the new IVD kits which are coming in the country, and based on the expert opinion and evaluation, if it is done by the ICMR or ICMR designated labs, the kits are being approved. If there is no scope for any testing at present in the country, in such cases what the regulator are doing, the regulator are based on the performance evaluation done by the manufacturers, the time being we are accepting that performance evaluation report while considering the approval of such kits in the country. And also the performance evaluation at present, what we have decided, for high risk it is made mandatory, for low risk we have not made mandatory for evaluation by these labs or the accredited labs. Based on the performance evaluation done by the manufacturers, the kits are being approved, and from time to time from the market, in order to ensure the quality, we are drawing the sample and we are evaluating the kit in the designated lab where the facility is there. And in case there is some issue of the quality of the product, definitely whatever the regulatory measures are to be taken, that the government is already taking that measures while knowing the quality of the particular kits. So for low risk devices, there is no mandatory requirement for the performance solution done by the NABL accredited lab or these government designated labs. But yeah, for high risk, the performance solution is to be done by these government designated labs while considering the regulatory approval for that kit. In case of the new, there is also challenge. In case of the new in vitro diagnostic kits, not only the performance evaluation report is required, but the importer or the manufacturers, they need to establish the clinical evidence by conducting the clinical evaluation, clinical performance study of that particular in vitro diagnostic kits. For that, we have the provision. We have made the provision for conduct of the such clinical study by submitting the application. The requisite application is there where the clinical investigation plan they need to submit it, and with that plan is to be examined by the expert group that identified by the CDSCO, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Based on their review and the study protocol, we are going to approve, and then the study is to be conducted to perform the scientific validity and the performance for its intended use. Thereafter, we are considering the particular new in vitro diagnostic kit for approval for marketing in the country. So these are the steps basically with respect to the high-end new in vitro diagnostic kits, and from future, if something that new will come, definitely we have the expertise, we have a panel of the experts, and based on that, their decisions, we are considering the approval of that type of that new in vitro diagnostic kits. So these are the points what we have. I hope that I have convey whatever that you want to know from the regulatory sides. So we'll further, if you have that any concern, though definitely I will try to clarify that during the discussions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I think you've captured from 2017 to 2023 the 6 years journey, and where are we? Now CDSO is ready. We are nowhere less than the Europe and US and developed economies in terms of the IVD regulations, which is evolving. And thanks for your assurance for the new products existing, the high risk products and the low risk products. There is completely a regulatory path available. And thank you very much, sir, for your complete capturing the essence of the regulation and requirements. Now, if let me check whether Dr. Nivedita Gupta has joined session. Okay, she's yet to join. In the meanwhile, let me shift the gear to the industry and then accreditation labs. Can I request Vishal Shukla ji, Deputy Director from NABL? What are the current standards and accreditation requirements addressing the diagnostic industry, and what is the outcome in current scenario? Can I just get your expertise, sir?
Very good afternoon to all, sir. Very good afternoon, sir. Sir, actually, just I'll give a brief introduction about Enable. That Enable is an accreditation board, sir, for testing and calibration laboratories. And as per Enable is complying with 17011 2017, which is conformity assessment requirements for accreditation body accrediting conformity assessment bodies. And sir, presently, Enable is also providing accreditation to the medical devices laboratories in both for calibration and testing fields. And I think so that from 2000 onwards, we have started this program in calibration and testing. It has been started from 2014 onwards, sir. And presently, Enable is having 30 labs in testing and nearby 40 labs in calibration field, which is accredited by Enable. And sir, actually, presently what we are facing, as you also know, there are a million of medical devices actually which are floating in the market. And as per our experience, we have visited some hospitals and some diagnostic centers also. But what we found over there that, sir, like we are providing a third-party attestation as we are accreditation bodies to the laboratories. So which is demonstrating of its competence to carry out specific conformity assessment tasks. Sir. So what we exactly found over there, sir, said that means that diagnostic centers and hospitals are not much aware about the, sir, regarding the testing and calibration of the equipment, which plays a very crucial role for the human health, sir. And I'll think so that if some of the hospitals, we have seen the scenario that whatever the equipments they are having in their OT stations also, they are in such a pathetic situation that they are, whatever the operations they are doing of the, humans, I don't think so that means people can survive after looking at particular scenario of that equipment, sir. So presently, Enable is giving accreditation for some few products actually, sir. So just what we want from the regulatory body that somewhere they have to just sir, prioritize, or sometimes they must make aware to the hospitals and to the diagnostic center that that accreditation to any laboratory or any specific manufacturer who is manufacturing, how much important this thing to them, sir, which indirectly plays a direct, play a role for the human life, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. I think NABL always played a significant role in terms of the awareness, standard setting, calibration over the years. But yes, we can understand still there is a need for push from all the stakeholders. Thank you for your vital input. I'll come to the second round. In the meanwhile, I'll reach the Bhupendra Kumar Rana Sahab, regarding is there need for accreditation of labs, and what is the status in India and Diagnostic Center in accreditation, and what is your comments or suggestions at the
Thanks, Sudhakar. Thank you very much. Thanks, Asuchan, for having me here today. And it's really wonderful to see a lot of industry experts around. Just what is Vishal had just mentioned coming from NABL about the status, and you asked me, is there any need for accreditation? Definitely. See, when we talk about any product or service, anyone want to make sure that the product or service I'm getting is of reliability or not? Is this product reliable to be used? Is it safe to be used in human beings, right? And the service accordingly. And what are the ways and means available for us as a consumer or anyone that how the reliability is checked? So as I was just the regulator CDSO mentioned about BR rules, and BIS representative earlier session mentioned about some of the regulatory regime. As you know, the BIS has regulatory powers for granting ISI mark for certain products which are under mandatory certification. So people can go, this is IS mark I can rely on, because it's established that there is certain process gone behind before this product has come out to the market. Same things hold good for the medical devices. Any medical devices, the MDR 2017 has very clearly laid out what are covered, and almost everything is covered in medical device, including software. So you are not leaving out anything. So how any user is going to get confidence in that product which is going to be used on a patient, that this product is safe for me, is reliable, I can really have a confidence in it. So the one mechanism which has been in use for decades is accreditation, because accreditation actually helps manufacturers, the users, to have confidence in that type of product which has been tested in a laboratory. We call it conformity assessment body in a laboratory, meeting certain requirements, and that requirements may be prescribed by the regulator or a standard writing institution like BIS in India, or any other drug regulator like CDSO, which can lay out that these are the norms which a product should pass, and the laboratory test and give a certificate for compliance that this product passed these tests or these specifications. And based on that certificate, the users can rely on that. So definitely accreditation has been a great tool, and is a tool, and would continue in future as a great tool for confirming the requirements of a specific product. And this has been a great time, and discussion has gone long for the last several years, even not only for any use for domestic market, but also for overseas market when you come about export of any medical devices. Anybody, any regulator, any foreign country or any importer would certainly laid out certain requirements to be met by that medical device. So who will check it? So of course, manufacturer will get it tested, either his own in-house laboratory or any other independent laboratory as per the regulatory requirements, or any of the requirements from the buyer, and we show the certificate for the compliance. So the accreditation plays, and as Vishal mentioned, the QI also is an accreditation body like NABL gone into like MRA for testing laboratories and medical laboratories, making sure that the laboratories who are issuing a test report in India can be acceptable anywhere in the world. And that's what the mutual recognition arrangement of International Laboratory Accreditation Corporation, ILAC, works, where the laboratory accreditation bodies like QA in India, NABL, which is one of the oldest one, and FDS now joined the third, can be compared anywhere in the world. So the accreditation is a tool which helps any manufacturer and the users on the regulators to rely on a test report generated in an accredited laboratory. It gives sort of a guarantee, if not guaranteed, then assurance that you can rely on that product which has been tested in an accredited laboratory. Okay, so accreditation is definitely a need, and now this need is growing as the regulation is growing up. Now MDR 17 come in place. Now there is a designation rule in place for the government and private laboratories. So because the laboratory which are going to be designated as a lab for testing any medical device for approval, need to be following certain rules and regulations, how their credibility is checked, and their credibility is checked based on the standard ISO IC 17025 for testing laboratories, right? And if there are any regulation applicable, because medical, what you call diagnostics, it's not just a medical device, but it's gone beyond the current definition. It covers almost everything now. So I think, Sudhakar, coming to your question, the final line I would say is definitely accreditation has played a role, will be playing a role in time to come for establishing the credibility and the confidence of any product into the market. In this case, the product is a medical device. So certainly we have to rely on accreditation in time to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranaji. I think it is a very apt comment from the accreditation need of the hour and reliability, and then also the regulators' confidence, users' confidence, and mutual recognition of how it is working with ILAC and NABL, etc. And in your, I also seen over the years your passion of adding value in terms of creating a lot of standards and bringing value addition to the healthcare sector, and we look forward further your guidance and then support. And thanks for vital information, Ranaji. I'll come back to you.
Thanks for that.
Now we'll shift to the gate to the manufacturer, the diagnostics. Avinash, I'll reach you. Do you face any regulatory challenges in market access, the import of IVDs and marketing into India? Post you heard from the regulator, you have also faced last 5 years the new regulation. So how do you see the current scenario? Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhakarji, and thank you, ASSOCHAM, for organizing such a good panel discussion. I think I'll flip it a little bit, Sudhakarji, and say that over the past 1 year, we have seen there's a lot of outreach by ministry, particularly from Honorable Minister and DOP. We have seen Secretary. In fact, so many panels and so many discussions we have been together, where Minister himself have reached out to industry stakeholder for any niggles or any issues. So it's not about government not doing enough. Government is already reaching out to us. We are interacting, including at secretary level, JS level, and the stakeholder like ICMR, CDSCO, and Minister himself is chairing these meetings. So that I think that channel of talk is very good and helpful. We are able to tell them what we need from them. I think my real concern is the rapid changing, and the fast-paced changing policy documents or rules of the regulatory landscape in the diagnostic sector. I think that is giving us very little time to understand, react, and prepare ourselves. I think there, if the government and the industry, other stakeholders like ICMR and others, if they can give us little more time, then we can, we have that absorption time to fine tune our own internal strategy and react to the situation. Unlike pharma sector, who have been in 30 years in this business and they are much settled, we are very new. In fact, I would say it's a baby step for us. Diagnostics, IVD has come only into limelight post-COVID, and we realized that how important this sector is for healthcare. And any interruption in, we are very aware of our responsibility. We are self-regulating ourselves, trying to catch up with the rules and regulation. Any disruption in the diagnostic sector is directly going to affect the people. Ultimately, healthcare is part of right to life. So my request will be, there's no complaint or there's so much effort being done by DOP particularly, and ICMR and CDSCO and Honorable Minister to reach out to us. But I think give us more time to react and settle down with the new rules and regulations. We are seeing so many new regulations coming in last 6-8 months. We have very little time to absorb it and prepare ourselves internally. That is where I'll stop.
Okay, I think I heard, and then I think we have got an open-ended opportunity for interacting with the CDSCO, and we'll definitely take up this matter through ASSOCHAM and then reach them. So they're definitely, they hear us and they always give us a space, and now understand the IVD being the nascent stage, and then they require a certain support. And I'll take the points through ASSOCHAM and pass it on to them. And thanks, Avinash. bringing some of the issues. Definitely, it will get the support from the regulators in coming times. Thanks. Now I reached the Prahlad Rai. In terms of the healthcare providers, there is a significant amount of transition from last 5 to 7 years or 10 years. There's a lot of instrument tests, softwares, algorithms available for entire solution, and every manufacturer claims an accurate results, timely diagnostic information, and so on and so forth. My question to the HCP healthcare providers side, because you are on the other side, are the healthcare industry is ready? Are they able to adjust with the new changes, and where are we? No, are the challenges are met? So it will be interesting to listen from you as a healthcare provider, Pralaji. Let us hear from you. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, SOCM. And I would like to say certain things that in last 5 to 7 years, or you can say 10 years, there had been a very, very big changes and which is coming in the industry across all the side. Let it be from the labor side, let it be from the IT side, let it be on the finance side, let it be on the new technology side, multiple things. Now where we stand. So the readiness of the healthcare service provider to adopt new technology and address new challenges can vary on several factors. Having said so, there is a growing recognition in the healthcare service provider that there is a potential benefit and we have to adopt the technologies in healthcare. Now there are certain considerations for that. I would like to tell the real problem which we are facing in last 5 to 7 years in this industry, as being a finance guy in the healthcare, in what many domain I have worked. So the biggest first thing is the technological advancement. If I say technological advancement is going in a so speedy way that to cope up with that is really becoming a very difficult part for us, because there are many things: change management, new technology, new hardware, new software. Then another thing which is coming, infrastructure and IT support. Moreover, we are seeing there is a problem with respect to data, that is interoperability, data integration, then scalability and sustainability. So these things always giving us a lot of burden. Then in these issues, there is a big gap into the regulatory policies and framework. When we see the regulatory policies and framework, we reach to some extent, then again, new things are coming. So over a period of these 5 to 7 years, or say 10 years, we are always, getting difficulties into that side. So I have one thing to submit here, that we certainly want something futuristic policy. What may come, what should come, and we should get trained for that. So this is one biggest problem which we were facing. Another thing is, obviously, being a finance guy, investment and financial consideration coupled with ROI and value proposition. So this is a big challenge which is coming for us, and with whom we are just facing this difficulty. This healthcare market is, you can say that you can demarcate it. One is regulated corporate market. Another one is, you can say, the other market, which is nowhere these regulations and other things which is touching them. So you can say 40-60% of this market, which is giving us another difficulty with respect to A, awareness among the people, B, the price sensitive point. The regulators, we have humble request to them that please address this issue, because whosoever comes under the regulatory framework, they follow everything, but the remaining part, which is not coming under the regulatory framework, is giving us a price sensitive and price competition. There is another thing. Now the third thing which I would like to highlight here, which is the need of efficiency and improved outcome. Now, who is analyzing the outcome? How it is being analyzed? When a result is coming from one diagnostic to another diagnostic, third diagnostic, I have never seen that there is any authority who is comparing this and giving certain things. I have worked with NABL, I have worked with NABH. They are certifying agencies. But once certification is there, then there is no other thing where there is a pattern. So this is another thing where our humble submission that how that can be done. Like in audit or other thing, it should be a mechanism. So this is also a practical point from our industry side. Then another thing which we are seeing in India, we are not having payers or insurance much like in other countries. You can say capitation, you can say the certain amount OPD or IPD or diagnostics that has not covered in the insurance. So there must be some mechanism and we have to tell or we have to develop that thing that payer side also we get support. So while there are many barriers to adoption the technologies, but HCPs are really working towards that. These are my submissions.
Yeah, I think Gaur Saab also initially clearly alluded there is a gap between the non-quality players to the quality players, and there is no what you call appreciation for the quality players. When they are investing on technology, so ultimately the common man will get confused. Where should I go? So I think our industry colleagues like Ranaji and Vishal Shukla, and then they all should support bring in some sort of a parity, why everybody should be pushed by only 60% not following and 40% following. So good food for thought, and we'll take up with Asochem. And I'll just now shift the gear to Dr. Nivedita Gupta ji, who was joined from ICMR. So there is nothing to especially say about ICMR, which has turned the table in 2020, 21, 22. All of us are alive, all of us are confident to sustain a quality of life because of the dramatic contribution by ICMR in terms of the testing, availability, reach, and also bringing the new technology in the shortest possible time, bringing the world into the focus what India can do. Now, I would like to hand over to Dr. Nivedita ji to understand what is the focus currently on ICMR, especially on strategic initiative of Make in India, commercialization of new medical device diagnostic sector. Over to you, Dr. Nivedita ji.
Many thanks to the organizers and giving this opportunity to express the current strategies of ICMR. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, we were commissioned with the task to upscale testing in India. And when I say testing, this included creating the labs for testing, training, as well as ensuring the availability of diagnostic tests. Because at that time, we were importing the molecular diagnostics into the country, mainly from other countries like USA, Germany, and China. So this was a huge drive in terms of indigenization of diagnostics, training the companies, hand-holding, validating the diagnostic commodities, which actually resulted in a very drastic price reduction of, I would say, almost 50-fold price reduction of the diagnostic tests in India. And moving forward with this experience that we ourselves gained during the COVID-19 pandemic, there were quite a few things that we realized. One was that definitely there is a need to indigenize diagnostics and also create availability of point of care tests so that we are able to improve testing not only for one or two pathogens but for a multitude of infectious diseases or infectious pathogens which are known to occur in our country. So moving forward, ICMR now is hugely like investing and looking into what are the diagnostic tests which are required at each level of healthcare, particularly for infectious pathogens, so that these tests can be indigenized and made available at the lowest level of healthcare. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, we could scale up the molecular testing capacity in India from a couple of, I would say, a few
It was to start with, we had one laboratory at NIV, then we scaled it up to VRDLs, 100 of them. But now we have 3,300 molecular testing laboratories across the country. So it is very conducive environment to utilize this molecular testing platform before it really dies off. And we have to preserve it and utilize what we have created during the pandemic. So we are working towards creating molecular diagnostics, point of care tests, as well as serology for many infectious pathogens now. This involves creating a list of priority pathogens for various diseases or syndromes, acute respiratory syndrome, acute fever, etc. So we are working on 7 syndromes. We are prioritizing pathogens under these syndromes, and we intend to pass on this entire list to the diagnostic companies and help them, handhold them to create various diagnostic tests, make available strains for validation of these diagnostics, and also make lot of national and international collaborations to make this happen. So this is one side of it. The other, in order to promote innovations in like detection of infections, we have partnered with IITs, and there are 7 IITs with which ICMR has partnered, and we are promoting innovations in these IITs for medical devices, diagnostics, and this is an entire indigenization process. Whereas for diseases, prioritized diseases, like if I talk about tuberculosis, then there are IITs which have been commissioned to make handheld X-rays, which would actually help us to even do the X-ray in the remotest part of the country, or even at the level of some nearby household, or it can be positioned in a common place like a temple or a panchayat, and where people can actually be called, X-rayed, so to improve the TB case detection. So these are the kind of innovations that we are looking at, partnering with IITs, telling them what is important for the country, guiding them into various innovations, taking them into a validation process. We are doing it ourselves, making available data to them so that they can validate their diagnostic or devices, and also guiding them through the regulatory processes, any international advice, and putting them into the program. So that's an end-to-end program that we are working with them. And definitely we are open to work with other innovators in the country. This is not only for diagnostics, but vaccines and many other solutions for public health improvement that we are working on. So I would stop here at this point and can take further questions.
Thank you, Niveditaji. It's a Herculean task what you turn around the last 3-4 years, and then it's very interesting to know further the lot of initiatives ICMR is taking in working towards the specific priority areas on acute respiratory fever, etc. And diagnostic companies have been handheld and then ensure that Make in India the products are going to come, and also IITs you have started Center of Excellence, which is another unique initiative. So look forward again, get feedback from you in the next in the second round. Thanks for vital information. Now I'll go back to I think Dr. Asim Sahu has left because he has to catch a flight. But I would like to go back to Vishal Shuklaji on the the accreditation matter. What are the challenges you are facing? Those who are going for accreditation now, are they happy? Are they have to wait for a longer time? Are there any changes you feel required in the current process? Because you've seen the either side. Over to you, Vishalji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sir, challenges which we actually as an accreditation body, what we are finding is that sometimes, when we visit the laboratories, actually they are saying that, sir, we are doing a good work for the nation, but few of the other laboratories who are not accredited, actually, those are, those are doing the same work. Those are doing the same work, but they are getting the more benefit from them. Actually, they are accredited, but means the laboratory which are accredited from us, they are saying that the laboratories which are not accredited, those are taking a much benefit from them, actually, sir. So the thing is that, sir, actually, sometimes when we speak to the hospitals and sometimes diagnostic centers, so they always say the one thing is that there is no regulations for this thing, that for the equipment, medical devices which we are having in the hospitals and in the diagnostic center, there is no such type of a regulation that these particular equipment should be tested or should be calibrated. So this is a very big challenge which we are facing, and I think so that this is directly, sir, this is a directly big problem to the end user, sir, who is going for a, sir, for taking up results from that hospital and that from that diagnostic center, sir.
Sudhakar, you are muted, I guess.
I think we have to handshake and come out with a newer way of working. Otherwise, as a manufacturer, as a user, and also as a policy, as an accreditation body, these challenges will remain. But thanks for highlighting the challenges. Now I'll just shift to Bhupender Ranaji. So do you foresee, sir, what are the as a client, as a customer, you feel accredited labs, attracts, are in reimbursement bodies will be more than happy to support, because I think when you are in the helm of affairs, there was a notification that if it is accredited lab, then the reimbursement, accredited hospitals will get reimbursement, etc. So would like to get your inputs how it will help as a customer or the end user.
Thanks, Sudhakar, once again. Thanks for a very interesting discussion. And I think I'll cover up what you just asked and a little bit on other questions raised inside. See, it's not just someone, either regulator or an accreditation body or a user or a manufacturer can do alone. Everyone has to get together. Everyone has to understand the importance of what we are trying to get. I was really little bit surprised when Mr. Prahlad mentioned the hospital, the NABH accredited, and lab NABL get accredited, and then there is nothing, you go, don't find anything. So I think I have been part of NABH since it started in 2006 to 2017 as founding deputy director and then director and CEO. And of course, I was in NABL before that, but now I am in QAI, which is again an accreditation body like NABH for healthcare. We run programs and laboratory accreditation like NABL. Again, there is a system. There is a system of checking on continuous basis, whether it's a hospital or a laboratory, through a process of surveillance, which is a normal process. But there is a process if we go for surprise check in case there is a complaint or there is a feedback for something. But the most importantly, the challenge behind before as an accreditation body we have is that why a manufacturer should go for accreditation. They feel like that it's a cost on them. It's a cost on them, and like Vishal mentioned, and that non-accredited laboratory are doing more business than an accredited laboratory. Why that system should come? It means the manufacturer is not aware that where they are going to get their medical devices tested, or the user don't know where they are buying the things which is not reliable on. So I think that gap of awareness certainly exists, and that I think we have discussed in last session. We will continue making awareness like this session. But more on that is as a responsible accreditation body or a manufacturer, it's on us as well to make things aware to the user, and our user are say for as an accreditation body is the manufacturer directly, but indirectly the patient or the consumer which are going to use them. That how they. So in a healthcare facility, as you say, what is the reimbursement mechanism? Unlike in a laboratory setup, in a hospital is accredited by NABH, or even now QAI is equivalent to NABH for that matter. The CGHS provide benefit. CGHS give 15% higher rate than on a normal pack. If a non-accredited hospital get 10%, 10 rupees, then accredited hospital will get 11 rupees. So that's the incentive of accreditation brings to the industry. And I think that's carry over to the medical labs as well. When an accredited medical lab gets incentives for providing services or getting services in an accredited healthcare facility. So the hospital, and it similarly goes to the ESIC or even defense or Ayushman Bharat, all these are incentivized. And that's why since we started accreditation 25 years back, if I remember, we always keep saying that a regulator relying on accreditation. Why the regulator should go conduct inspection multiple times? They can simply rely on accreditation because the accreditation makes sure that all regulatory requirements are in place. So if I go to a hospital to accredit, the QI will not give, and for that matter, I can say NABH will not give accreditation to that hospital if any legal requirements or regulatory requirement is not met with. Same thing hold good for the medical laboratory. Whether it's a biomedical waste or it's a pollution control, whether it is a radiation safety, whatever that matters, So regulator, and I think it has been in last 15, 20 years, the regulators had actually relying on accreditation heavily. And you have seen the CDSO, they say the lab should be accredited to 17025, and the Ministry of Health says that Food Safety Authority says that laboratory should be accredited for food safety as well. And there are other sectors and industries which are actually the regulators are relying, including telecommunication. So the regulators are relying on accreditation. There's no doubt about it. It needs to go up, number one. Number two, as an accreditation body also, our responsibility also to create awareness amongst the users and manufacturers. And the third thing I would say is that everyone has to come together. We can't work in silo to achieve the common goal, and common goal is patient safety. We talk about medical device or medical field, it's a patient. And patient safety is the ultimate goal for everyone around. So whether it's a regulator, or it's a manufacturer, or it's an intermediary of a supplier, or an accreditation body, we have to work together in syncs to understand the need and requirements of each other, so that we can come out with a program which suits to industry best and which can really then minimize the barriers for industry, for the manufacturers to go forward accreditation. Why they feel that they should not go for accreditation? Why more and more non-accredited laboratories are providing services? Of course, when regulation has in place now, though they will not be going forward. They can't do that for the approval aspects of medical devices because they are not entitled to conduct and they are not approved for that purpose. But barring that, there are many non-accredited. Of course, there are 100,000 labs, medical field, and also maybe thousands medical device testing lab would be accredited, but not all accredited. Fraction of that are accredited. I think so. Regulator will push it, but we as an accreditation body would also push from our side, creating awareness. But I think you as a direct party, the industry actually who are into the domain of preparing, manufacturing it, I think they lie heavily on their shoulders to come forward to adopt quality mechanism, quality system, to not only to demonstrate the quality compliance to themselves, but to their users and regulators. So I think my would be that please come together and try to achieve the common goal, which is the patient safety. Thank you.
We have to come together, enhance the awareness, and need to go up in terms of the standards in providers and also the diagnostic side. Definitely, we'll take your inputs and come back to you and work separately through ASSOCHAM. And I'd like to shift a gear on the quick comments by the Praladji. I know you have expressed the pain of investing, not getting the recognition in spite of the bringing the best in class of the quality standard technology. Just a few comment on in continuation to Ranaji, the classical reimbursement. The reimbursement you can get it only if a person is admitted. OPD guys don't get the reimbursement, etc. What are your few comments and suggestions? Because on the other side, ICMR colleague is also there. I think we need to take it up collectively. How can it be made reality one day?
Sir, thank you very much. Ranaji, I was just telling that the outcome not with the accredited people only. I'm saying that outcome across where we are seeing the very, very big trouble. So outcome analysis, that was the purpose of that. Second thing, sir, I'm really happy to tell only two comments here that as already these digital diagnostic solutions are disrupting our IVD industry. So now there are more challenges which we are facing. Now for digital diagnostic solutions which are coming, still regulations required over there that how they do, what they do. Okay, we understand patient safety, they have to come and they have to get the tested done by our diagnostic lab only. Having said so, they are also having the difficulty in getting the fund. They are also having difficulty in arranging the things. The best part of them is that they are really reaching to the masses in no time and they are really giving the best patient easiness with the patient and best patient experience. So now we have to consider these digital diagnostic solutions which are coming also regulated, and that should be tied up with our IVD this business model, and we should work on that. That is one thing. Another thing, one is that we need to promote our insurance agencies to be participatory in our pre-hospitalization things, wellness, diagnostic check, and other things. There we are seeking the government attention, as in the previous session our panelists told that there should be some ATD separately for this, or some sort of deductions for the wellness and health of the people. So that is the thing where we require from the government side with for OPD and diagnostic testing, which is available across the part. Right now I am just talking from Nairobi. Here in the complete Africa, that is there, and we are getting our capitation and our OPD and our diagnostic also. So the same thing we are looking in India also, sir. Thank you.
I think Pralaji, it's a very apt comment, and we need to tie up our hands with the regulator and also accreditation body and come out with some suggestion so that IRDI will also get a nice vibes that there is no misuse, etc. Ultimately, one day it has to be done. Otherwise, India population of such a huge suffering people cannot get reimbursement in OPD, etc. Very, very valuable session. We'll take it up. And lastly, I'll just go back to the Nivedita ji for our closing comments. What they would like, what as a government, as an ICMR organization would like to see in especially in the diagnostic innovation, research and market access, how you like to see, and what are the support you ensure from the ICMR organization?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So moving forward, as I said in my previous comments, what we would like to ensure is that the availability of diagnostics for common pathogens which are known to occur in India. And when I talk about diagnostics, then definitely we need to have a mix of diagnostics which can be used at the lowest level of healthcare, perhaps as a point of care solution, and also a mix of molecular and serological diagnostics for the priority pathogens. Now, since we have a very rich flora and fauna of the molecular diagnostic capacities in terms of trained manpower and machinery, after the COVID-19 pandemic, it would be wise to indulge into multiplex diagnostic tests wherein we can actually detect several pathogens which mimic similar kind of clinical presentation at the same time point. So that's the kind of testing that we are looking for. And when I talk about point of care tests, it would be really nice to have tests which have a high sensitivity and can be used as a screening test at least to detect particular pathogens, and then maybe we can also tag them with a confirmatory test later. Although desirable would be a test of high sensitivity and specificity, but that may be a challenge in point of care, but at least high sensitivity so that we can appropriately screen people and refer them to a nearby diagnostic facility where a confirmatory test can be offered. So this is our wish list. And what we can offer to the industry, we understand that there are several bottlenecks. First of all, they need to know what are the priority for the Indian government, what pathogens need to be tested, because somebody like borrows pathogen list from some other XYZ country where we have a Rift Valley fever, some African fevers into our panels, which we really don't need. So India specific list of priority pathogens for various syndromes is something that we feel that we should make available to the industry. So they are guided in the right direction, that if we are looking for tests for acute fever, what are the pathogens that we would want to test? So this is the guidance that we are going to offer to the industry. The second thing is, once they are ready with the diagnostic test, they would definitely want it to be validated. And currently this setup of validation centers is very, very limited in our country. And what at ICMR we are now working with the DCGI office also wherein we are trying to set up centers or reference labs which would be able to validate the tests that are being made by the manufacturer. And by validation, we talk about laboratory as well as field validation, depending upon the need of that particular diagnostic test, that what would be the level to which we have to take it. Now, in addition, when we talk about this huge setup, then at ICMR, we also have to gear up our capacities to be able to write up these appropriate validation protocols, which can be uniformly used across the country by ICMR, non-ICMR institutes, and also make available reference train standards at a set of laboratories in India, which would serve as the validation centers. And on top of that, I think a very rich system of conducting the external quality assurance of various laboratories which are supporting the manufacturing industry also needs to come in, and also being open to innovative solutions by offering them gold standard data. This is something which ICMR has started looking at. There is a center of excellence at IISc Bangalore for gold standard data and solutions, not only like I would say that pathogens or infectious agents, but things like having AI-based solutions for detecting tuberculosis or other diseases targeted for elimination like malaria, filaria, leishmania. So promoting AI-based diagnostics also by making available clinical data, scans, pictures. This is something that ICMR is hugely looking at with various partners. That's not alone, but we are talking to many partners to make this happen. So I would stop here.
Thank you, Nivedita ji. I think it's a huge list of, I think, we would admire and a kudos to the ICMR with the priority of pathogens, validation, DCGI collaboration with the field validation and ICMR capacity building and conducting external quality. I think your wish list and then commitment continuous, taking it to the next level is highly appreciable, and I think industry will definitely wish to collaborate to the ASSOCHAM, and will come out with the suggestions by the colleagues, and we look forward for an outstanding, the better outcome with the patient-centric outcome. With this, I think thanks, ladies and gentlemen, the panelists.
Thank you, ASSOCHAM.
Very positive outcome has come, and we will collect all the suggestions, and it will pass it on to the ASSOCHAM, and it will reach the regulators for the possible solutions. Thank you, sir, for each and every panelist. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Sudhakar. Thank you so much for wonderful
Thank you, sir.
moderation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sudhakar ji. Last session 3, Innovations and Futuristic Technology in Diagnostics. I would like to invite Mr. Abhimanyu Roy, Executive Director, Avalon Consulting, who will be the session moderator and session lead for this last session. Mr. Roy, please.
Hello, everyone. So we're now in the last session, which is session 3. And I think this, a lot of the topics covered here have been discussed in the previous sessions, but the focus here is on technology and how technology can be leveraged for the development of the Indian diagnostics industry. There are a lot of different subtopics under this when it comes to technology, and therefore I wanted to divide this session into various areas, and I just want to kind of lay out the topics that I would like to discuss with all of you. One is around new technology itself. What are the new technologies that are coming into the sector? We hear so many buzzwords. We hear about new IVD developments in the IVD testing space. Traditionally, we were talking of routine testing, microbiology, hematology, biochemistry. Now we're talking of molecular diagnostics. There are many new technologies that have come in. So we would like to understand from representatives here who are working in these technologies as to which ones do they see have potential for India. Secondly, there is the AI space. We hear a lot of buzzwords around use of AI for for various kinds of testing, especially in radiology and imaging. And we have Dr. Harsh Mahajan. I'm sure he will have a perspective on this since he's especially involved in this area. So technology itself, new technologies is the topic I would like to touch. Predictive genomics, how do you use genetic-based testing for better and more accurate diagnosis? And is it really working well in India? I mean, are the biomarkers, the genetic markers that are available, are they relevant for the Indian population? And therefore, can these tests really solve, issues in India like early cancer detection? One hears of breast cancer and other tests which are very, very popular, where genetic markers have really worked well. But is it really true for other kinds of testing? And is it working well in India? Is something I would like to understand well. So that is a whole set of topics around technology itself. The second is around how do we use this for the public health challenge in India? Because in India, any discussion on diagnostics has to talk about the rural population, has to talk about the underserved population, and therefore, can these technologies be really leveraged to address the last mile, to address the vast pool of patients, be it diabetes or cancer or autoimmune, or there are so many other public health challenges which the country is facing. The third is around actually the use of big data. I mean, we again here, I'm also now representing the common person who reads a lot about big data and how patient data, in India, because of our large population, possibly healthcare providers are generating a lot of patient data. Can this patient data really be used in a beneficial manner? Can it be made available in a common aggregated way where healthcare providers can have ready access to it? And I believe the government Ayushman Bharat digital mission is the first step where patient data could possibly get aggregated in the cloud, and with full confidentiality and using blockchain or other technologies there is supposed to be a high level of privacy, confidentiality, but access to such data to healthcare providers. So does this whole area have potential in helping India solve its diagnostic-related challenges? And finally, there is one specific area, which is the way diagnostic laboratories are run and operated today. The way, I mean, we all know it's a very disaggregated space. There are these standalone labs which have variable quality standards where technology may or may not be used. One is not sure to what extent they are using various technologies. There are the national chain players. There are the organized sector players who I believe are much more digitally savvy. They have the chain labs should be networked. They probably have a whole tracking of the sample. It's every sample is barcoded and it goes through a proper digital tracking. So I would like to understand how this varies and what are the challenges here. And then there is, of course, the hospital labs, which may have their own set of challenges. So digital workflow and lab automation is an area I would also like to touch. And we have some representatives who can possibly throw some light on this. So this is how I plan to structure the discussion. And I would like to first start with maybe Mr. Rajesh Patel from my lab, if he's around. Is he there?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, Mr. Rajesh Patel, maybe you could give your comments on your thoughts on these topics. I think you may want to comment on maybe AI or new technology, or the latest technologies that you find are relevant for India.
We don't see him here. I think he's not there.
Okay.
I saw his name in the list. I think he has not joined yet.
Fair enough. Yeah. So, and the other thing I wanted to just preface before we start is that, I mean, we have two representatives from the government side, ICMR and Department of Science and so on. I think we will get their perspective also into the picture. But first, I just wanted to speak to Dr. Rajiv Gautam. Maybe he can throw light on these two topics of interest. One is maybe AI and other buzzwords that one hears. And secondly, what new advancements that you find in the space, which are relevant for India and where there is potential.
Thanks, Abhimanyu, and all the hello to my all fellow panelists, especially to Dr. Padke. Is one of the guru of our pathology world. Thanks, sir, being part of the fellow panelists with you. So, Abhimanyu, my point is very simple. From a technological advance in IVD industry, I think as you use the word AI, and that is changing the whole IVD space. We have seen it from a perspective of digital morphology is getting popular and popular. We are there as a Horiba, we are also there. It is a skill. It is building the bridges between the skills, whatever you need as skills. Hi Rajesh, you're little bit late. Maybe we'll give you a chance little later. So thank you.
Actually, I was connecting that time also, but somehow my voice was not reaching. Then my video was not ready. Anyway.
Okay, nice to see you, my friend.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rajesh.
So technological advance, I think molecular biology, you can see the RT-PCR. I was listening the earlier session that 3,300 laboratories are there, genomics are there. So a lot of advances is coming from this perspective, not in more of a biochemistry. Hematology is also coming, not from the parameters, new parameters are coming, systems are same, and malaria flags are coming, and many things is happening. I think things are changing, but not as fast as the AI is coming in the other medical devices than IVD. But hopefully, it will take place in next 3 to 5 years. As a major change will take place from an AI perspective in IVD as well. So let's be prepared for that. Thanks.
Right. Thank you for your opening remarks. I think you've set the context well, and taking that on, Mr. Patel, would you like to come in on these topics and present your point of view?
Yeah. Thank you. Actually, I could listen your question to me, but somehow because I was not visible and my voice was not on, so I could not answer to it. So my input here is that whether we call it as artificial intelligence or the digital information which is available for the healthcare, whether it is radiology or diagnostics, the need here is that whatever technology comes, it should be made accessible, affordable, accurate, and it should really assure the attending clinician that yes, it is benefiting the treating doctor as well as the patient. So I say that whatever technology comes, it should really address, because at the end of the day, we have to serve our country, India, which is more than 60% rural.
Right. So again, like you rightly emphasized, that the end objective is to give better access, affordability to the masses, and any such technology, and especially when the government finally looks at it, and if there is a case for working with the government to deploy these technologies at scale, it has to be driven by the public health interest. Dr. Manoj Chugh, who's from TransAsia Biomedicals, he's a senior general manager and head R&D of reagents there. Would you like to present your point of view on these technological advancements that you see in the IVD space, both as a industry professional and who would be observing trends in this space, especially if you have any thoughts on the point of care technologies part?
Sure. IVD space has witnessed seismic technological advancements over the years. Number one, I would like to enumerate is assay development. For example, immunology, molecular assays have come in. I would say automation has revolutionized IVD testing laboratories tremendously by increasing the speed, enabling high throughput screenings. Even all these automated systems nowadays are modular, integrating so that we can combine multiple testing capabilities into a single platform. As you rightly said, POCT, miniaturization of these automated systems has further helped. For example, lab-on-chip technologies. These portable devices, they allow for rapid testing near the patient, and they reduce the turnaround time and improve patient healthcare. Biosensors and nanotechnological advancements have further led the development of novel diagnostic platforms. The best thing that I like about POCT is they work label free. For example, for other IVDs, we need HRP, AE, fluorescence tags. Some of the POCTs are label free. Then NGS in POCT is further revolutionary. It enables comprehensive analysis of DNA, RNA, enabling precise diagnostics. As Abhimanyu, you were rightly pointing out, not only cancer markers, but also infectious diseases. Whole exome sequencing or transcriptomics, whole genome sequencing, these are additional tools that have further supported the decision making. Last thing what I would like to highlight is mass spectrophotometry. Mass spectrophotometry has emerged as a powerful tool, particularly in the field of clinical chemistry, hormones, because all these markers are being detected, but standardization across platforms is a bigger issue to deal with. So most of the calibrators nowadays are traceable to mass spectra. Standardization across platforms is really essential. And then finally, sample preparation. As we say, hub and spoke model, there's in temperate regions like India, it's a great difficulty that we have to deal with when we ship samples from patient side to the labs. However, advancements which are related to membrane-based transportation, where you can put sample onto the membrane, these kind of advancements are helpful.
Right. Thank you for a very good overview of the various technologies that you find are going to be relevant to India. I'd now like to move to Dr. Harsh Mahajan, a doyen in the space of radiology and imaging. He needs no introduction. I think I would just like to understand from you, Dr. Mahajan, where do you see radiology-related technologies in India? Of course, it is widely believed that India has very low cost. I mean, in India, most patients are able to get radiology done at very low prices. But from a technology standpoint, one could discuss the penetration of these devices itself at an overall population level. Can that be improved through lower cost, lower pricing? That is one aspect. The second is the latest technologies like AI, and knowing that your organization is also involved in that space, where do you think, what are the different kinds of problems that AI can solve from a public health standpoint?
Thank you very much for this question, and I would like to thank ASSOCHAM for inviting me. You've asked a host of questions regarding artificial intelligence. Before I actually start my reply, I'd like to say that at Mahajan Imaging and Labs, we do from hemoglobin all the way up to next-gen sequencing, and from X-ray all the way up to PET CT. So in our centers, we kind of get a sense of where this technology or AI, or augmented intelligence, artificial intelligence, whatever name we may give it, where it's taking us. I take you back to the year 2016, when Geoffrey Hinton, who's the one who actually invented deep learning, which set off this whole, development race in AI. He had said that we should stop training radiologists because in the next 5 years, there will be no need, AI will take over. Thankfully for me as a radiologist, his prophecy hasn't come true. In fact, there's a shortage of radiologists worldwide. We need more and more. Having said that, a lot of new AI tools, AI applications, AI algorithms have been developed in the field of radiology and imaging because it was digital since 25, 30 years, which made it easy. The data was available. And because of that, as we speak, there are more than 400 AI algorithms that are US FDA approved. So there's a lot of traction, a lot of things happening about public health. If we talk about chest X-ray and tuberculosis, WHO has approved 3 AI algorithms, and one of them happens to be from India, Cure.ai, which can be used on a mass scale to look for tuberculosis on chest x-rays. This is already in, I think, over 100 countries around the world. This is in use as we speak. Then there are tools that have been developed for stroke, for triaging patients, and across all body parts, tools have been developed. But if we look at their, actual adoption in day-to-day clinical practice globally, the adoption is very, very limited. It may seem to someone that if we have a AI tool, we can just run X-rays through it and we'll get a result. That unfortunately or fortunately is not the case. There has to be a methodology through which those digital images are actually put through a system. They come from the PACS or the HIS systems, which receive them from the X-ray machines. From there, they have to go into this system where the X-ray will be read, and only then will a result come out. This whole process is very, very tedious. And we actually are in this validation, pre-deployment testing, and deployment space. Carpal.ai is a startup that has come out of Mahajan Imaging. And it takes 6 to 8 months for one AI application to actually get assimilated in a system which is very well digital. So if we were, and I do believe that for different body parts, there already are different AI algorithms, and there will be more as we go forward. Which AI algorithm to choose? Can I trust it? During the pandemic, even in India, every week we were hearing there's this new AI developed by some startup or some academic institution, and it's 99% accurate. But when we would try it, it would not even be 50%. So developing trust through validation and testing is also very important before it's applied. The future is very bright for AI, but there have to be ways, standardized ways, in which this can be used in hospital or clinics or diagnostic centers, where you can actually trust the AI that you're using. You can actually deploy it in a very inexpensive manner. So one thing is the cost per read that the AI developer wants. The second thing is the cost of deployment. And so we have to look at all of this. I do believe that in the underserved parts of the world, AI does have the ability, as we are already seeing through this global tuberculosis project, that it's able to read X-rays, and only the positives that come out of AI will then be read by radiologists to confirm. It also has the capability of improving the accuracy of radiologists, pathologists, physicians. As we go forward, it's going to come into every aspect of healthcare, and also improve turnaround times, and hopefully improve accuracy and reduce healthcare costs. The future is bright, but there is still some way to go before we are able to adopt it in such a manner that it's seamless. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mahajan. I think that was a very comprehensive and yet a very practical reading of where the technology is. I think we all got, at least I personally got a lot of insight into where the technology is, and probably, like you said, the potential is immense given, from a replacement of radiologist perspective. If that could itself be used to solve that manpower challenge, then it could be
just one quick comment. I do believe that it'll work as the radiologist helper to begin with, and then the cardiologist helper, the neurologist helper, the pathologist helper. Every field it's going to be useful. Of course, those applications may take time in coming, but one thing is for sure, that a doctor with AI will certainly replace a doctor without AI.
Very well said. I think that's a very interesting takeaway for all of us. I would now like to move to Dr. Avinash Padke, the president and mentor at Agilus Diagnostics. Sir, from a diagnostic labs perspective, what is your where do you see all these technologies? And I would like you to just give your thoughts on A, the IVD technologies that you see coming up, B, the point of care tests that you see coming up, and thirdly, on predictive based, there are a lot of genomic based testing that is coming out that various companies and organizations are offering. Are they relevant? Are they useful? Can they really transform, bring about early detection and screening to solve that problem? So as an industry leader, how do you see that the potential there?
Yeah, thank you so much, and hello and regards to all the fellow panelists. Regarding new technologies, we have talked about PCR getting applied during COVID times for detection of COVID, but we must not forget that those platforms exist, but the workload has vanished because the COVID suddenly went out. Now, the same technology can be applied for diagnosis of dengue, malaria, chikungunya, scrub typhus, or even typhoid. So the same PCR technology can be used for that. Then we talked about mass spectrometry. Mass spectrometry is routinely done in microbiology. There is a system called MALDI-TOF from bioMérieux. It has a bank of pathogens of more than 1 lakh species and subspecies, and that is not only bacteria but fungi, viruses, and other pathogens also. And what it essentially does is vaporizes a particular colony, and the molecular map of that vapor is mapped against the existing data bank in the machine, and within 1 hour, what used to take us a day to identify a species or subspecies is identified in a span of half an hour. Thirdly, the microarray technology. I will give an example. Earlier, suppose the patient had meningitis. We used to do CSF examination, do proteins and sugars and cell count, and there was a guesstimate whether it was tuberculous, viral, or pyogenic. And now we have a microarray based BioFire technology which detects 20 pathogen. So within a 1 hour span, we are able to tell the clinician whether this particular CSF is indicative of tuberculous meningitis, herpes meningitis, cryptococcal meningitis, or pneumococcal meningitis, and he can start treatment. Imagine the context that a case of meningitis, the appropriate treatment is getting started within a span of 2-3 hours against probably a week or never. I remember when I started my career, a cryptococcal meningitis diagnosis was extreme rarity. It used to be applied only where patient didn't respond empirically to TB and antibiotic treatment. Now we see we are living in a days of immunocompromised individuals with longevity increasing, diabetes, many patients on steroids and immunosuppressant. You are increasingly seeing advent of fungal infection, including young, as not only in immunocompromised, in immunocompetent individuals. So it is very important to identify the pathogen correctly, otherwise the lives would be lost. These were some of the examples of newer technology in pathology. Now you asked about genomics. I would divide genomics in 2 parts. A genomic exams which results in actionable endpoints. For example, you are dealing a case of leukemia and you want to see translocation in chronic myeloid leukemia and whether it reversed after chemotherapy. It's very, very important to do cytogenetic testing and whether the particular reversal has happened. So this is an actionable endpoint. But suppose I do your blood test and tell you that 30 years down the line you are prone to a particular type of cancer. By way of prevention, if nothing is possible, whether that information is a useful information or it's going to produce unnecessary stress to the patient without an actionable endpoint, and in which case is it desirable to reveal that information to the patient if there is nothing you can do about it. I will give you another example. There was a cardiac risk factor called lipoprotein 8. We used to all read about lipids. We used to read about ApoB, and we used to know that these have atherogenic potential and statins would bring it down. But for lipoprotein A, we had nothing. So we used to just tell the patient, you have very high lipoprotein A, you have very high cardiac risk, but we have nothing to offer you. Now, in this type of investigation where you have nothing to offer, it becomes a challenge to deal with that information. Now, luckily, we have new drugs called PCSK9 inhibitors, which are injectables available in India called Rapetha. It's Dr. Reddy's injection. But it's prohibitively expensive, which can bring down your lipoprotein A by 50%. But each vial costs you 22,000. So, it's not practical for our country. So these are some of the examples of genomic-based testing, which are information in itself, but some with actionable endpoints and some without actionable endpoints. So I think I have answered most of your questions and look forward to further questions.
Thank you again for the very comprehensive view of all the latest advancements that you have seen in the industry. And like you said, that some of these predictive technologies, one has to really evaluate how useful they are from an actual patient advising and counseling standpoint, if it is merely predictive and not really very definite. So I would just, before going to Mr. Anubhi Sinha, I think, Mr. Sinha, I will be coming to you on the lab workflow, automation and digital. I just wanted to complete the discussion on the AI and the technology side and the public health issues. So I would now like to come to Dr. Alka Sharma. She's a senior advisor, scientist H in the Department of Biotechnology. And ma'am, we just wanted to get your perspective on what are the developments you are seeing? What are the issues that the private sector is perhaps discussing with you, or what are the kind of projects that are being done inside the Department of Biotechnology related to these new technologies? Maybe it's to do with point of care technology or AI, or and I just to preface that the public health challenge. How can some of these technologies be deployed for solving some of our big disease burdens that are there?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. And first of all, I'd like to thank ASSOCHAM to take this lead and also organize this webinar in that also this session on innovations and futuristic technology. This is very, very important into today's scenario, and our previous speakers in two sessions and also in an inaugural session also, most of the components have been covered in this, and now we heard from everyone, and then they all have covered the entire pipeline of this AI base is very, very important. And many of us are aware that Startup Insight magazine has quoted that this year in March 2023 that all futuristic technologies, which are top 10 medical diagnostics trend in the current scenario. So that includes AI, diagnostic imaging, big data analytic, sensors, bioinformatics, personalized diagnosis, wearables, point of care testing, mHealth, and preventing medicine. So if you really see, these are the things that we are really focused from the government side also. In previous sessions also, the speakers were from various government agencies. So the focus is on this, and now the time is not that the work in isolation. So everybody has to come together, and you all know that DBT is fortunate enough to have BIREC, which is an industry academia interface agency of DBT, and they actually, through BIREC, we cover this entire spectrum of industry and startup and in this area. So as far as Department of Biotechnology is concerned, that many of you may be aware that this futuristic technology was thought maybe 15 years back, and when their biodesign program was initiated in a twinning of medical schools and IITs to bring together and just focus on futuristic technology, and the focus was also on devices and mainly on diagnostics. So now we are seeing the fruits of those technologies, that efforts which was made long back. And now also this AI is concerned, the development of AI-based diagnostic is very, very important in current scenario, as we are hearing from all of you, the speakers here. And keeping in view the importance before pandemic, I'm not going to touch upon because it's a long list, and then lot of startup industries just they came forward, worked together, brought so many diagnostics and all at that time, and validation testing was carried out. But development part was taken by DBT and BIREC together, and the validation testing as per the mandate and all, it was ICMR, deployment by the Ministry of Health, and other pricing and all was Department of Pharmaceuticals. So all ministries, department came together and they addressed all those gaps and challenges at that time. So I'm not going to touch upon that what diagnostics were developed at that time. But apart from that also, the kind of focus we have from DBT and BIREC. So before pandemic, we actually realized that AI is should be the focus, and we work together with international partners. Here I would like to take example of Sweden. So we supported a large number of projects on AI, and the second theme was circular economy. But here I am just going to take that this AI and then the leads which we have under those projects is, I would like to just tell you the areas and also the maybe some kind of technology which have been developed. Development of computer aided glioblastoma and intracranial aneurysm treatment response quantification in neuroradiology. Since we have Dr. Mahajan here, and also the radiology, non-radiology that we are discussing today. So they are, for example, bone age. The kind of data we have is now actually is a Caucasian patients data that we all are using. So now project was given on that just to generate some data for good quality data for our Indian patients, so that at least the comparison can be, because they are very tall, and in our population we don't have that kind of this height. In generally we don't find that. So these kind of things already initiated, and now there are leads available. And for this first time actually in the country, this kind of novel, accurate, efficient and rapid AI based software application for automated bone age assessment for children of different ethnicity was developed, and then now the software is now being validated. Coming to the non-radiology based diagnostic, also there are few projects that actually there are many projects were supported, but I would like to just highlight where some leads are available. And industry that actually they are also very much aware where to focus and what to address. And then for to facilitate those things, BIREC is there, but academia, DBT is working with academia, and then when it comes to industry, BIREC always is there. So that AI-based platform for fast pathogen identification based on nucleic acid detection, and will that actually will pilot this technology for acute myeloid leukemia patient, and who often acquire bacterial and invasive fungal infections because they are immunocompromised patients. So that this is very useful. So those AI-based technology which have been actually now used for non-radiology. For another example is AI-driven large-scale screening for oral cancer. So that is also the projects have been given. And a deep learning based pipeline has been developed for efficient oral cancer screening and low-cost sample processing techniques. So the challenge and the issue which now we are facing from the funding agency, and also what we are discussing with all stakeholders, scaling up whatever we are doing it, we get the results, we get as our expected outcome which we but the next step is scaling up of those results and how to take that to the population for use. And we all are actually now feeling the same way, that all stakeholders have to come together. We have to identify the challenges and gaps, how to address those challenges and gaps to scale it up, and also parallelly we have to work on regulatory, because it's a very fast growing area, and then every time we the big data and all what we are all discussing. So how to deal with that kind of challenge? And regulators and also the people in the government as well as in private sector, they all are dealing with this. We have to come together and we have to just address that particular gap according to our own mandate. And I think that we can connect the dots and entire pipeline can be achieved. So that is being felt, and we are working towards that. And that's brainstorming sessions are being organized just to identify gaps and challenges, and who all are there to address those gaps, and various partners, stakeholders we are trying to bring together within the government, outside the government, and to work together just to connect all the dots. Over to you, but I will come back to the public health challenge that also that you asked. So there are various technologies have been developed in terms of, because we are 60% population, as people were saying, in the rural area. So how to have a mobile van go to them, and that was also applicable during that COVID time also. But now it is very common mobile eye surgical unit that was supported by DBT long back. Now they are serving a large number of population. Also portable versatile eye examination device, newborn eye screening device, point of care blood immune analyzer. So these are the technologies very important if you really see from public health point of view. And these things have to be now enhanced further in public private partnership mode. And state wise also we have to see that in which state that will be, because it has been done in Tamil Nadu and various other states, but there are many states where they really need this in rural settings, and we have to work towards that, and we are working on it. And then we are also taking all stakeholders together, because nothing is possible if you do just work alone and just address your own issue, because it has to be collectively, and it has to be in a very systematic manner, that who will address which challenge and how. Thank you. Over to you.
We are not able to. I think.
Can't hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, I think now it's unmuted. No, I just wanted to thank you for a very comprehensive view of all the work that is happening inside the Department of Biotechnology on all these projects. A lot of these projects are very interesting, and I'm sure there could be ideas where some technology transfer or collaborations can take place with the private sector to deploy some of these at scale as we move forward. Also, your thoughts on the public health challenges are most useful. Dr. Suchita Makran, I would now like to come
Just
to you.
wanted to add here one line, that most of the technology which I have now just discussed now, that most of them have already reached into the market, and they are already available in the market. So that many of them are in the pipeline, but a few of them which I spoke just now, they have reached to the market. Thank you. Over to you.
Sure, thank you. So Dr. Suchita Makan, who's a scientist E in Mission in Charge, Medical Device and Diagnostics Mission Service Secretariat at the ICMR. I would again like to come to you with the similar theme of new technologies that you find are relevant for India and where ICMR has focused on, and how do you see them addressing some of the public health challenges that are there?
Thank you, SOCHM, for giving me this opportunity. And it was really a pleasure listening to the industry colleagues here and Dr. Alka Sharma from DBT. So when we talk about, we all know that India is a huge population of 1.4 billion, and 70% of them are in the rural areas. So keeping that in mind, the ICMR's focus is primarily, as the custodian of public health, is to develop technologies which are affordable, accessible, and available to all, and that to quality products. So in that perspective, we have a lot of communicable and non-communicable diseases which needs to be tackled, and we work primarily on technologies which are of national health priority. So a lot of technologies needs to be handled. When we talk about communicable disease, we see TB, HPV, HIV, to name a few. And when we talk about non-communicable disease, we know that our country is the diabetic capital of the world. We also have huge burden of heart and lung disease, stroke, cancer. So basically, ICMR is working in a multi-pronged approach, and we definitely rely on technology and point of care technologies, because we all know that these people living in the rural areas won't come for diagnosis, and sometimes they are given treatment first and diagnosis later. So we are really trying to develop point of care diagnostics which can be taken to the rural health areas, and we do those diagnoses going to home at PHC, CHC level. If we can deploy those technologies, that is the kind of approach we are trying to take. And my colleague Dr. Nivedita Gupta has already mentioned the kind of interventions we are trying to make. We are trying to develop support technologies, validate technologies developed by the industry, since we are listed on by DCGI as the prime organizations for doing testing of those technologies. We are also trying to develop gold standard data, national priority setting, samples, trying to have a repository of different kind of samples which can be used by the industry for doing diagnosis. And some of the examples of technologies I would like to just put on board is just 2 to 3 technologies which can set the perspective. One is the right biotech technology, the fastest antibiotic finder. We all know that 2, 3 examples of how we have deployed some of the technologies at PHCs, and they have been taken by the program for handling those issues. One is the right biotech technology, which is the antibiotic finder, wherein we all know that AMR is a huge burden, antimicrobial resistance. And when the patients come to the hospitals, they're given treatment without understanding which is the kind of antibiotic which is relevant for them, which should be given to them, thereby leading to the development of antimicrobial resistance. So this kind of product where the gap area was that to identify which is the antibiotic which will be sensitive and should be given recommended to the patient would take 2 to 3 days, and nobody has time to wait for 2 to 3 days. So we came out with this technology within 4 hours, which can tell which is the kind of antibiotic which should be taken for the healthcare provider. This technology was validated by ICMR. We did operational feasibility of this technology, and it is being deployed through public health programs and is now available at PHC, CHC level. So that's the kind of problem we have tried to address. And then everybody knows about TrueNat, the world's first rapid point of care real-time PCR, which was used for, earlier it was being used for TB. Now it has, when COVID came, we asked these people to change it for the COVID diagnosis. And this has also been deployed at maybe 4,000 places at the PHC sub-centers level. And it has really changed the way diagnosis happens at this PHC, CHCs level when we have to actually end TB by 2025, which is the target given to the Ministry of Health, and we all are working together to achieve that target. Similarly, if we have to do the screening of TB, we need to have handheld X-ray device, which can be taken in hands, maybe 4 to 5 kg, go door to door. So those kind of studies we are doing Saharan tribes. So ICMR truly believes in having technology in hand, looking at best of the technology, linking it with AI ML, because that's the way forward, and then trying to adopt those technologies and implement those technologies and do evaluation of the public health impact, which is the ultimate aim of all of us working together. So we are doing these kind of small efforts, and we continue to collaborate with industry to make this public health impact. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Suchita Makran. I think again we got a lot of insight into all the projects that are happening in ICMR, and like you said, a lot of these are targeted at the rural population. Anything around TB and so on is going to be very impactful for the larger population. So I think we have now covered these new technologies and AI and genetic-based testing, and I'll come back for final comments from each of you on and maybe a response on anything you have heard in this session from anyone else. But before I do that, I will come to Mr. Ranabir Sinha, who's the head of Diagnostics India at Siemens Healthineers. And with him, I would like to touch upon the topic of the whole use of technology and digital in the way diagnostic laboratories are being operated and managed in India. We know that there is a lot of scope for using digital, but the fact remains that largely in India, most of the labs are standalone. They're not accredited. Some of them are sort of semi-organized, unorganized, etc. That is the mass of the 100,000 or 150,000 labs that are there. Then you have the national chain labs, and they have a certain level of technology deployment one understands. And then there are probably the hospital labs. So I would like Mr. Sinha's perspective on how can digital technologies be really used to make diagnostics much more efficient? So given our capacity today, can digital technologies make the existing capacity more efficient, which means better utilization? Can they lead to better accuracy of testing and diagnosis? And which are the areas where you find that maybe clients of yours find it difficult to implement? So because there might be a lot of technologies available and digital tools available, but there might be practical implementation challenges which you find. So that would be a useful learning for anybody who's wanting to enter the space and who wants to be digitally enabled. So over to you, Mr. Sinha.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for inviting me over here, and it was wonderful listening to all the co-panelists over here. I would like to start this a little different. I would like to pick up just one or two, like Dr. Suchita said, about 75%, the masses who needs to be looked into in the rural. Dr. Farke very beautifully explained, technology or disease-based technologies that we have. And, Dr. Mahajan talked about the AI. And this is classic, we are sitting in India, we are talking about this stuff, and you can see the variations amongst our discussion itself. You have a 75% in the rural, and we are also talking AI over here. And when you look into us, typically when you look into the MNCs, Siemens, it's a global company. So the moment you come out with the systems or anything, you look into the advanced, that's what, sadly to say, where the businesses are. They look into the large systems, a large portfolio to handle. But when you come to India, I personally say that you have a US and an Africa sitting side by side over here. Now you have, 100,000 approximately labs, as you rightly said, it may be 150, but yes, we say it's somewhere around 100,000. Now, when you look into all these advancements, where they can fit in, they can at the most fit in 12 to 15% of the lab. Basically, you need the workload, you need money to invest, because all these things needs money. Okay, and so whenever we talk about this technology, what is available over here, this is typically into that 12 to 15% of the segment, but there's a huge segment we are not even able to touch. And sadly to say, more than the reach, it's a question of investment that needs to be done. If you look into Siemens, why I wanted to connect the dots over here is, we looked into and seen, okay, how do we touch all these patient points over here? So obviously cost is one of the major issue. One of the reasons you cannot go to those 50,000 labs, basically because of cost. Yes, reach is one of the things. So what Siemens Healthineers is doing over here is, we are bringing the technology as we are, but we are also looking into manufacturing in India. We have a small one. We are actually investing more money over there, trying to build up the strategies made to build up products. But one of the things that I would like to really highlight over here is, the moment we talk about manufacturing products over India, we talk about, can we find out low-cost products, cheaper products? What Siemens Healthineers is doing over here is, cost is important. There are two ways you can decrease the cost. One is, it's not the right word, but just to explain, find out low-cost product. What we are strategically doing over here is, bring the same quality, do not lower the pricing by tweaking a little bit of a quality, but what we are looking into is, we are lowering the cost of doing business. Because when we are delivering, actually, we all know the liquid cost is always lower than the packaging cost. That's how it is. So what we are strategically doing over here is, lowering the cost of doing business, keeping the quality exactly what we sell internationally, and driving the cost factor over here. Now, coming back to when we talk about consolidation, we are talking about 12 to 15%, but the classical cases, and I'm sure Dr. Farge will agree, you talk about the large labs and you say consolidation. Is it true consolidation? A large chain of labs is still having 200 labs, 150 labs. Yes, you can say consolidation on the top by a one brand, but is it a true consolidation? But can we really go to the true consolidation in India? Most probably not. I think, the strategy that we have over here, because you still need to do a reach, you still need to go and do the test in a lab in Meerut. So the typical Western consolidation will not work over here. You need to, what I personally feel, It's that fuzzy kind of consolidation, and I think it's working well. But what's happening through that is your cost is increasing. So you need a AI, you need the best of the technology, yet you have to do it at a lower cost because that's what it is. So that's what the real fight over here is. And typically, if you go to the labs where the investments are, you talk about AI, you talk about automation, you talk about pre-analytics. It's typically managing the sample flow, because if you go to large labs, they may be doing 200,000 tests a day. It's a huge amount of sample. And I think as this big labs, they also understood very well, quality is not only what kind of reagents that you use. Quality is actually driven by the process that you follow. It is no more, which company reagent is good. I always say, 15 years back, we used to say Sony is the best. Today, we just walk in and say, okay, this looks better. Let's pick it home. I think that's where, we have come over here. So we look into the challenges in two ways. One is the internal, how is the, manage the internal processes, and the external is we are doing great stuff, but we also need the samples. So how do we reach? I think this is where digitalization actually is worked. And yes, we always go back to pandemic. I think India has done, really realized it and working onto it. One great thing about pandemic is even the masses understood digitalization works. We don't have to go and advertise. We are okay to click, book a test, and the phlebotomist walks in. I don't think this was possible, pre-pandemic. So I think this is great. And I would also like to connect over here. We are also learning from here, and we are taking those lessons. As I told you, lowering the cost of doing business. That is something that we are very vigorously following it up, because cost is important, but quality is also important. I would like to come on to the automation part, the pre-analytics and the informatics. I think these large labs now really getting into the informatics parts very seriously. We are actually getting calls from various labs. We need to now connect this 50, 100 labs under one informatics system, which was not so much of a call 5 years back, but which is happening now. And I would personally say, that's a great development that's happening. And I would like to just end over here by saying that when we talk about digitalization, it is not only the lab part, the sample reporting, but it's actually the entire patient journey, the sample collection, identification of sample, maintaining the sample integrity, sample flow, error-free national chain labs. If a person enters in a Cochin lab and after 10 days he flies to Delhi, he gives a sample in Delhi, can that person be mapped? And it's still a struggle with large labs. I think these are all happening. It's good things happening, and I think we are on the right path. I just tried to cover many points in a short form. Hopefully, I addressed it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sinha. That was indeed, you were able to very nicely cover all the multiple questions I had fired at you. I think my takeaway is that, like you mentioned, it's the process, not just the infrastructure and other things that you have. And the processes, the people, their adherence to processes is critical in this whole journey, in this whole patient journey. So now I would like to perhaps summarize and take final comments from each of you, starting with maybe Mr. Patel. In your opening remarks, you had talked about how it needs to be whatever new technologies we deploy have to be relevant to us. From your experience of having managed various companies which make devices and test kits and so on, do you find any technologies which are particularly interesting, and any other comments that you may have on this topic?
Thank you, sir, once again. And I will once again come to the use of technology for solving the public health challenge, because that is one of the burning issue which we are day to day hearing and handling. Like, like the communicable as well as non-communicable, both disease burden uh, from ICMR, Dr. Suchita has already told us that communicable diseases like tuberculosis, the HPV, and non-communicable disease burdens like diabetes, cancer, the newborn screening, the thalassemia, the sickle cell, all those things are there. So technology, I will say that technology was not available is not the case. Technology was earlier also available, but it was accessible only to few. The multinational companies were earlier also available, but those were all limited to the large cities and all. The need of the country was that which can reach to 140 crore individuals. The 70%, 60 to 70% of India which is rural, who will reach there? Companies like the Indian companies who invented the first, like COVID rapid antigen test, the COVID self-test. COVID self-test was the best example, where the data was analyzed by eminent authorities like ICMR for each and every tested individual who was at home. So timely isolation of that individual, the timely care, the medicine reaching to that individual without the individual going to any healthcare center for testing. Similar way, like the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, says that we have to make India by 2025 TB Mukt. So TB Mukt, if we have to really make India, we have to really ensure that the solution should reach to rural or the smallest possible geographical area of the country. I am proud to say that my lab, the company which I represent, in association with Serum Institute of India, which is again our partner, has developed the Sci-TB test. The name Sci-TB is based on the Cyrus Poonawalla sir's name. Sci-TB test, which is a non-invasive patch-based test, which will not even detect, not only detect TB, but it will also tell whether it is a latent TB, which will also tell whether it is a drug-resistant TB, so that in a single test, as a solution, as a single test, the person is not only diagnosed but also treated. Simultaneously, company like Serum Institute have developed the vaccine for tuberculosis, so the prevention of the tuberculosis is also possible. So we will prognose, diagnose and prevent, and then only the disease will be completely eradicated. So the solutions, any solution which comes, whether it is AI based or any other technology, but the solution should reach to the rural India, and it should really eliminate it completely. Only diagnosis is not completed, not enough. Prevention is also equally important, and treatment is also equally important. Recently, our company MyLab has tied up with Zydus Cadila. So for the first time, any diagnostic company, any medical device company at one side is supported by a vaccine manufacturer. At the other side, it is supported by a giant drug manufacturer. So if any disease is diagnosed, it will be treated and it will be prevented through vaccines also. So if such kind of holistic approach is used by any organization, it will work hand in hand with the government policies or government approaches towards eliminating diseases like sickle cell, like tuberculosis, like cervical cancer, etc. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Patel. I'm just being a little mindful of time. I think we are close to the 1 hour mark. So it would be great if we have a closing comments from each of the rest of the panelists. Just either elaborating on whatever you've spoken earlier, or if you want to respond to anything that you'd heard. Dr. Rajiv Gautam, would you like to give your thoughts? Sorry, you're on mute. Could you unmute yourself?
Sorry, thanks for giving me last chance. Couple of minutes just to summarize what's my thinking of on IVD. IVD will definitely be change in next 3 to 5 years, and three things will change. One, from an accreditation side, that as we say that we have close to 100,000 laboratories and how to bring under the accreditation, so things will change. Definitely, each lab will change because of that. Number two, AI will come. It will not remain the same whatever it is today. And the third thing is then that point of care test will become more and more popular, and it will divide into two parts with the classical pathology and the point of care technologies. I think there's your IVD will change the shape on these three accounts. That's my feel.
Right. Thank you. I think that's a very good summarization of where we are. So now, Dr. Phadke, would really like to hear from you on your closing comments.
Yeah, I would like to say that we are moving towards use of AI in a big way. Especially, you must have seen that for predictive ability of AI. Suppose we are, for example, monitoring serum creatinine over the years of a particular patient, and we are monitoring microalbumin create ratio of the same patient. We can deploy an AI-based tool where we can prevent and predict the onset of diabetic nephropathy, and we can not only put him on ACE inhibitor or ARBs in time, but that's a huge burden if the patient goes on dialysis. And AI-based algorithm which can predict the onset in number of years. Suppose we see that there is a pattern of microalbumin create ratio increasing and serum create gradually going up, we know that this particular patient needs intervention. This is just one example. Secondly, in pathology, many reports are supervised. MD pathologist is the person who is the authorized signatory. Now, in remote places, keeping MD pathologist is becoming very difficult. So these point of care devices which are deployed in remote places, the readings can be done by a central place, and the AI-based algorithm will eliminate the need of supervision of lakhs of reports and determine which actually need pathologist attention and which can be released with digital signature. So this is the second. And thirdly, I agree with the previous speaker that point of care is going to revolutionize the medicine. Just a last word on it. Today, when the patient goes to ICU, he undergoes the test for BNP as well as troponin, which determines whether he is in failure or he is having acute coronary event or he is having bronchial asthma. And he is admitted to the ICU for coronary intervention or for failure management or for asthma treatment. This is possible because of point of care devices and nothing else. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for your comments. I think very useful ones. Dr. Manoj Chugh, any final summary remarks from you?
See, it's very important to acknowledge the challenges associated with when we implement these advanced technologies like point of care, such as infrastructure limitations or cost considerations. And also the need of appropriate regulatory frameworks when it comes to quality, because we have seen these POCT devices, they vary when it comes to quality. In addition, data privacy and ethical considerations are also associated. Collaborative efforts between industry, regulatory bodies, and healthcare professionals are required to implement these advances responsibly. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Now I'd like to move to Dr. Mahajan. Your remarks, please.
Thank you very much. Three quick points. One, with these devices, which are point of care or wearable, we will need to build in a system of healthcare where action is then taken. They have to be actionable, not just data for data's sake. That's point number one. Point number two, taking on from the pandemic, I think the relationship between government agencies like ICMR, DBT, METI, and the private sector has become very, very good. We've seen that we can work together, we can trust each other, and we can deliver the goods for our country. And I think this is slated to continue in the future and should be strengthened. And the final point, when we talk of diagnostics, each person is talking about his own field. We are talking in silos, whereas we are talking about a patient who has had multiple tests done. So I think these silos need to be broken very quickly, and we need to talk about integrated diagnostics. And that's where at least we made an attempt. The first integrated diagnostics center of this country we set up last year, where under one roof we are doing everything from hemoglobin to next gen sequencing and X-ray to PET CT, along with a very robust team of researchers, AI specialists working. And I think this integrated diagnostics will also be facilitated in the future with artificial intelligence because the data is just humongous. And finally, I think we need to harness the data. Uh, in this country, we always say 1.4 billion population. We have huge amount of data. When we start actually searching for it, it's so unstructured that it's unusable. That's the final thing that we need to look at, and only then can we provide solutions for our population and our diseases. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mahajan. I think that point about data being available in India but not in a structured and systematic manner is very well taken. I think that is a fundamental challenge to be addressed. And so I'd now like to move to Dr. Alka Sharma. Your closing remarks on whatever you've heard or anything you'd like to respond to? Sorry, I think you're on mute. You're on mute. Could you unmute? Okay, there's an audio issue. I think they're not able to hear.
You're not able to hear.
We're not able to hear some.
The mute. Mute.
Now she's.
Yes, now you're okay, I think.
Hello.
We can't hear you, ma'am.
So maybe we'll go to Sucheta.
Yeah. Sorry, I think we'll try and resolve this, but maybe we can move to Dr. Sucheta Makran on her closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, I would like to close by saying that government is fully committed to foster Make in India for medical device and diagnostics, and that's how our division has also been created in ICMR to specifically give focus to devices and diagnostics, and that's why we are here. We would like to also put on board that if it is a robust technology aligned with the national health programs, requirements of the country, it is a national priority. We are fully committed to support that technology. And I think my colleague Rajesh Patel, who was talking about SciTB, maybe forgot to mention that ICMR has actually validated that technology, and we did the operational feasibility of the technology and also recommended that to the program.
Yes, ma'am.
So it has been used and deployed in the program, being used in a big way. So the point is that if technology is good, aligned with national health programs, it is robust, quality is assured, it works, then government is there to handhold the industry and take it to for public health, achieving the public health objectives. And we are very clear about that. We would encourage the industries to keep engaging with us and understand the priorities of the country, try to address those challenges, and then government being the largest player public health for the public health procurement, we are there to help the industries cross the last mile of reaching to the public. That's my closing remarks. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sucheta Makran. I'll just check once with Dr. Alka Sharma if we can have her back, or ma'am, are you able to?
Chat.
Maybe if you log out and rejoin, it may work.
Yeah. No, I think she's Dr. Sharma has put out her comment. Yeah. So what she's saying is that we are all aware of the huge demand of innovations and futuristic diagnostics. So there's a need to enhance PPP for promoting innovations and collaborations to take innovations and futuristic diagnostics to the last mile. So I think she's emphasizing on the PPP aspect and how government and industry can come together. So I think we are well over 1 hour, and but I would really like to thank all of you for a very interesting session. I personally picked up a lot of nuances on topics which one would have read about or heard about from other people, but from practitioners and people who are in the thick of things, we've got a very detailed perspective on these issues. I'd just like to my closing remarks would be that I think that from a technology perspective, from what I heard around the room was that we are all well aware of which technologies can be relevant for India, be it infectious diseases or some of the other disease challenges which are affecting the country. So we have identified the right technologies. Now it's a question of scaling up, and which obviously requires a lot of cooperation between the government and the industry. And especially on AI, the potential seems very, very interesting from a public health perspective, be it TB, X-rays for TB, or be it in radiology and others. And from Dr. Sinha, we understood that while there is technology available to automate and make things more efficient, it is still about people and process and about implementing it in a cost-effective manner. So with that, thanks everyone, and we therefore come to the close of this session. Yeah, I would like to now invite Dr. Gaur to give his remarks.
Good evening, everybody. I think we had a long marathon session, almost like 4 hours, and it's a pleasure to see all of you, hear all of you. I think a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge, and I'm very sure many of the things will translate into action as we move forward. And I think the audience probably had a good time, and the policymakers probably will be able to hear us. We have released a white paper, and I think the copy of the white paper will be circulated to all of you, and followed by, I think we'll have our recommendations also. We'll try and probably share with your inputs, and I think submit to the government as we move forward. Just at the end of the day, at the closing, I'd like to say, today we are on a fascinating journey to explore the new world of diagnostics, and I envision the incredible possibilities that lie ahead. Pathology, with its microscopic exploration of tissues and cells, is unravel the mysteries hidden in our bodies. But radiology, with its powerful imaging techniques, unveils the secrets that lie beneath the surface. Together, we form a formidable duo in a quest for accurate diagnosis and effective treatment. I think integration is one. I heard Dr. Mahajan mentioning about it, Dr. Phadke also mentioning about it, and in our inaugural address, Dr. Jitendra Sharma also mentioned about the integration very well. He says, why can't a person go to a center we have straight away, we have X-ray, chest, and sputum for AAB and gene expert together? Why they are separated? I think that is probably the future, which is something Dr. Harsh Mahajan is talking about, and Dr. Phadke also mentioned about. Integration is, I think, one of the important parts. With all my colleagues, I'd like to extend my heartfelt thanks and gratitude to ASSOCHAM, all the staff, I think Deepak and Seema, and multiple people who are actually behind the show. Thank you so much. Great work done. And I'd like to extend to all our distinguished speakers, our partners, and each one of you for joining us today. Together, let us unravel the mysteries, envision the possibilities, and embark on the accelerating expedition into the future of diagnostics. Thank you so much. But as we close down, there's 2 lines I could say, I noted it down. In a world of innovation, we're talking about innovation, automation. So in a world of innovation, a vision comes to life. A diagnostic center with no scientist in white. So let us embrace the future where progress leads the way and the diagnostic center hums with the precision every day. But at least the most important part, behind automation lies a caregiver's heartbeat, understanding patient stories where empathy always meets. I think whatever we are, I think this is something what Harsh Mahajan also mentioned, and all of you will agree. I think without automated labs, self-driven labs, self-guiding labs, whatever it is, we have to have a human touch behind it, and that's where we are there today. And we have to adopt, we have to collaborate, and that's the future lies, and this is where we probably can deliver what we are meant for. Thank you so much again, and thank you everybody for being present here. I'd like to have Sudhakar also say the closing statement before I close down.
I think we had an August gathering. I think one of the best I've ever met with all the diagnostic experts. Everybody is putting their wisdom, why we should care people, how can we make it happen. There is less of ambiguity, there is more of clarity. Thanks to everyone, to the ASSOCHAM, I think, take the inputs and make it happen. Thank you.
Anything?
No, as a partner for this event, I think we've had a wonderful experience. We were hopefully in a small way, we were able to contribute to the organization of this event. Personally, as an organization, we've learned a lot, and we feel that this industry has a lot of potential, very interesting times ahead, and we would in future would certainly like to see opportunities where we can help this industry grow. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I look forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all the participants.
Thanks, everyone.
I would like to extend heartfelt gratitude to all our partners, especially DRG Path Labs, Becton and Dickinson, Roche Diagnostics, and of course, Avalon Consulting and Medical Buyer. Thank you so much with all your inputs and your wisdom. We become a little wiser today. Thank you so much for taking.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you.